as you know, I'm an atheist. I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
We can still converse. We can talk about many things. We can agree on things. It's been coming up a lot lately. I don't know how I kind of got tagged as a Christian white nationalist, which I'm really not. Yeah, I don't know how this happened, but I ran the Grok test to see if there's this particular program you run through Grok to find out, how your reach is going and all this kind of stuff. And I found that it said I'd been muted up to 90% and all this kind of stuff. It's very frustrating.
Really?
Just because there's no nuance. And I've always said this, that with labels, when people label everything, you're this, you're that, it removes nuance. You can't have conversations like that.
I get a bunch of grief, believe it or not. I mean, like I'll have every now and again I'll mention something. The other day I think I mentioned something about like belief in God, and I had said I don't really believe in God, and I got a bunch of grief for it. But I try to point this stuff out because somebody asked me about it one time, and I answered this question for someone a while back, and I said, listen, there is a difference between someone like me and someone like a Richard Dawkins. I mean, there's a big difference there. Dawkins, from what I can tell, basically shuts the idea down completely, and I put him into the category of a almost militant atheist. I put him in kind of that category of in other words, trying to convert people to one belief or another. And I think that that's actually kind of wrong. I think that you can live your life and you do what you want to do. Now, having said that, and I explained this a long time ago, which was that from my perspective, this is going to sound odd to hear from someone like, but the Jesus character is actually probably my number one hero. Now, that may sound weird to say that, but I assure you it's not. Let me explain. There's a few possibilities here. Either, let's go with the first one. I'll just take the obvious one. That Jesus was just some guy who was born to a 14-year-old whore, which that's according to the Talmud people, that's basically it.
Yeah.
And he was just some regular dude who had a flock of sheep, because everybody back then, I mean, you had multiple jobs. You not only were a carpenter, but you also had to like grow vegetables and and tend your flock. You had to do kind of everything.
You had to provide for your own existence.
Right. Yeah. Like you still had to function. And so here's this guy that managed to, in his spare time, change the entire world. Think about this for just a second here. If that's true, if this was a regular dude who managed to challenge an empire to such an extent that they had to change the empire because of this one fucking guy born to some 14-year-old whore, in his spare time did this, right? Like this wasn't his full-time job. His full-time job was, I got to move all these stones and build shit while I'm about it. Oh, and I also have to carve a door frame out of a solid block of wood. But let me change the world while I'm about this.
We all need hobbies.
Let's go with that. Okay, that borders on fucking miraculous.
Yeah.
In fact, that story is almost better than the other story if you think about it.
Yeah.
There's this random fucking guy. Okay, so that's one possibility. The other possibility is that the whole thing is made up. Okay, let's go with that idea. Let's go with it. It's a literary character. This is a fictional literary character, and the author of which created other characters to tell this story and did it in such a way that he had to give each and every other author their own personality to do this. That's literary brilliance to do that. I mean, and and had the side effect of creating an entire religion, changing the world, changing the Roman Empire into becoming, the Roman Catholic Church. Like that's incredible, right?
And invented fan fiction.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, imagine. So I mean, again, imagine this was a completely fictional story. Okay, if it's fictional, again, that's still, dude, that's like Shakespearean level. I mean, that's insane, right? That's to be or not to be. I mean, that's like really, that's so powerful that it created a religion, and once again changed the world. So whoever wrote it, right? If it's all fiction, well, whoever did that really managed to change the whole goddamn world. That's amazing. So that's the second one.
Yep.
Third possibility is that, okay, this is this is the Son of God, and God and so forth. Okay, let's go with that idea. I would almost submit that the first two are even more miraculous, frankly. I mean,
yeah,
they kind of are. I mean, but okay, fine. It still doesn't change the fact that if you look at the character of who this was, let's go with it's just totally fiction. Okay, let's go with it being made up. What is this main character saying? Well, everything that he's basically purported to have taught is all really grounded common sense shit.
Yeah.
That if you take it seriously, there's nothing really bad about any of it. In fact, it's treat others the way you want to be treated. Well, that's pretty common sense. Now, you're not obligated to treat them better than they treat you. That's true.
Yeah.
You're not. You have no obligation to do that, but you try to treat them the way you want to be treated. Okay, fine. You should try to do your best to help people when you can. When it's available. But again, you're not required to do this. There's nothing that says that you have to do this. You're not required. All of the overall philosophy, then of course the money philosophy, which of course I think that Josh doesn't get anywhere near the credit that he should get as an economist and businessman. I don't think he gets anywhere near
lawyer as well. Like he did it all.
Yeah, exactly. Like nowhere near the credit. And again, to be clear, this was in his spare time.
He had a day off.
Yeah, this was in the spare extra time that he had to do all of this. So yeah, becomes an accomplished businessman, a gainfully employed carpenter, a shepherd, etc., who happens to also become an economist. Every bit as good as Archimedes.
Yep.
A philosopher, every bit as good, or better as Plato. And Aristotle, like, and lawyer that, like, yeah, I mean that's insane.
Yeah,
right. That's just crazy to run into someone with that, or to see a character with that breadth of knowledge. So, where I'm going with that, with all of that I'm saying, that because it's like, well, that sounds really amazing. Like, it is. So even as an atheist, I have to concede that is absolutely spectacular. I mean, it really is incredible. Like I said, if it's complete fiction, it is one hell of a work of fiction.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. And if he was just some regular dude that we're still talking about 2,000 years later.
Yeah.
That's pretty goddamn amazing when you really think about it. So
it's an impressive feat.
It is. It's absolutely impressive.
Yeah.
And so all that said is that, like, even from an atheist perspective, one has to at least concede that that's really something. That really must have been some guy to be able to pull all that off, assuming he was real. Or it has to be one hell of an author if it was fake.
Yeah. And how did they get several different authors over a span of centuries?
Right.
To write consistently,
all to put this together, like, that is really amazing. So if it's all made up, that is impressive. It like, one has to concede that is very impressive to make something like that up, and to be able to keep that level of consistency. So again, the article of faith aspect okay, well, that's whatever. But if you're looking at it, I look at it just from sort of a cold-eyed, you know, analytical perspective and go, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
So that was sort of I wanted to clarify that just because I get flip shit about this all the time. It's like, no, don't misunderstand. I'm not Dick Dawkins. I'm not telling people they shouldn't believe in anything and just to go be a bunch of fucking nihilists. I'm not like that. I still respect the idea and the ideals that were teached, or at least taught back then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't speak for what's going on now in today's world. Who the hell knows? But
it's changing a lot in today's world. The thing I always come back to with this, I guess, I'm not sure what the term would be. A socialist Christian, perhaps. I'm not sure what it is, but I just simply ask the question with people when. Like, we were never, America, Australia, we were never theocratic. We were never what you would call a Christian nation as such, but our beliefs and our laws and everything is based essentially in Christian doctrine. My point that I always bring up is when we were observing this more closely, was society better or worse? Are things better now? Now that we're moving away from all that, are things better?
Yeah, that really is a great question. I would say that like, assuming civilization manages to last another 50 years, or at least Western Civ managed to last another 50 years, I think that is going to be the question. Yeah. That people are going to ask. It's like, are we better off? I would argue probably not.
Yeah. I would agree.
Like someone had posted this on Twitter a while back. I said, like, the internet has the internet actually ruined things? And my comment is no, but it did clarify. It certainly clarified a lot of things. It certainly clarified, it exposed a lot of, I think, the way a lot of people actually are.
I think the internet has been very revelatory. I think the narrative was far more controlled, even though it's absolutely controlled. Again, they've just had to step up their game quite a bit.
No, you're right about that. And because the internet isn't really a free and open exchange of ideas anymore.
No,
not
it
anymore.
is not.
Like it's way too controlled now.
Yeah.
Particularly socialist media platforms that are, they're all owned by basically the same people. And of course, even if someone says that they don't, unless you own all that stuff outright cash, which no one does anymore because they all have loans. Well, if you want to know who rules you, find out who that person owes the most money to, and that's who actually rules you, because that's the reality of it.
That's great.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is the crux of it.
Who do you
even
owe?
The founders of the U.S. were concerned about that kind of stuff. They would always be concerned about who owed money to who. I don't mean like among each other. Like no one's concerned if Jefferson owed Adams, $20. Like nobody cares about that.
Yeah,
that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about like excessive debt.
Yeah, controlling interests.
Then you are kind of controlled. It's the Epstein thing.
Yeah,
it's everything wrong with our world right now. I would argue that, if you look at almost anybody that's in a position of political power right now, if you delve into their life deep enough, you're going to find that someone else controls them. They probably owe a lot of money, favors, or both, or there's video of them eating a child, on an island somewhere.
Yeah.
Among other horrible shit. I mean, who the hell knows? Because if you're trying to control things, I mean, that's how you would do it, right? I mean, if you're running a counterfeiting operation, which is exactly what this is, it's it is what it is. You don't really care what something costs if you're going to print money. So you print a bunch of money, you start buying up all the assets, and then you need to have other people to run the assets, but you can't just put anybody in there. You got to put people in there that are going to do your bidding. And so, you just tell them, hey, you're either going to play ball, or I'm going to find somebody who will. And sadly, I've been on this kick. I've been doing videos on this where I've been pointing this out. Like, if you're just going to be all about the money, you know what? Just say that. you're better off. This is, again, this is the Jesus thing, right? Josh said the same thing. You know, you're better off to just come out and be a horrible fucking human being. At least you can respect it.
Yeah.
At least you can respect the honesty, if nothing else. But there's so many folks that don't see themselves as doing any of this stuff, any of this horrible stuff. But it's like, dude, you all are already owned. You already went down that path, and so of course now, in order to get out of that, you've got to go. You may or may not survive it. All right. I mean, think about it like that. I mean, like that's another way to look at it from the practical sense. How many of these people that if any of that stuff is true, let's go with the second. Let's just for a second here. Let's assume. Let's for the sake of argument say that all this stuff is true. All that horrible shit. How many of those people would survive in jail? None of them.
No, zero.
None of them. There isn't a self-respecting armed robber in all of D Block that would not no, dude. They look at that and go, dude, no. I'm not going to be a celly with people like that.
Yeah,
they won't.
Well, plus it's a chance to get famous.
That as well, exactly. And it's like so when you control people to that level, like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess you're rich if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose. I look at that and go, man, I mean, that isn't worth it.
Yeah.
That's that age-old question. What hath a man profit who gained the world but lose his soul? I mean, it's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's an important one. It's the one that I always thought that, at least when I was taught, I was always taught that your goal was to not be like that. Wow, what the hell happened here with that? One of the lights went completely crazy on me.
Really?
Randomly. But then when you get a little older, you know, you're like, hold on, you people who taught all this stuff, you people are hypocrites. You're doing the exact opposite.
I think that's the thing.
It's hard for kids to take that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
kids don't do well with ambivalence, and they don't do well with hypocrisy.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's the thing. One of the issues of the world with society is that it's been pretty well laid out that kids require structure. You need walls to push up against to see how far you can go, and those are being removed more and more, or the walls have been pushed back further and further. And I saw something the other day. One of the releases in the Epstein files was I can't remember the names, and I will mess this up a bit, but it was one of the big Islamic scholars, teachers, and leaders standing there with his arm around Jeffrey Epstein, like best buds. He's not wearing any of the garb. And it also came out that Epstein was given this piece of sacred cloth. So it just kind of shows you how, you know, at one level you're told to live one way, but at that next level, so, well, that's for you, that's not for us.
So yeah, that's actually been a problem that I've had with religion in general. That at least in my case, I can only speak for just my own opinion. But one of the problems that I have with a lot of religions, Christianity included, by the way, so again, we're not talking about the stuff that Josh talked. We're not talking about that, the actual teachings. We're talking about the corporate structure.
This is the human aspect,
right? And that's an issue that I kind of have, is that I think that people who like control, they don't really care what religion you pick as long as you pick a religion.
Yeah.
Because all you have to then do is control the people who control the religion.
Mm-hmm.
And you got them, right? So all you have to do is just control whoever someone is in whatever religion there is.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to control them, get them involved in something. And that's all that it takes. And then you end up controlling by proxy all of the followers.
Mm.
It's kind of a messed up, because again, that's where you have to have that core idea, the core idea of do you understand this stuff, or are you just following along with whatever a preacher, an imam, it doesn't make any difference.
Yep.
Leader of a synagogue. Are you just going along with all of this? Or do you really understand some of this stuff? Are you asking questions? And that's kind of been my issue with a lot of the world's religions in general has been a problem of mine, because it's like, well, it isn't what you believe to me that seems like an issue. If you want to believe in God, I can't touch you. Believe in God. But if you're going along with some of the religions, like, I have to ask the question, like, what exactly is that religion teaching? Are they doing any? Are they following through on some of the stuff? And then it goes again, who is the leader of some of this stuff? Is that leader compromised? Do they owe a bunch of money to somebody? Do they owe a bunch of money? Because if they owe a bunch of money, like, well,
yeah. It's also, it's very hard to, I mean, I think a lot of people are more and more, like, I have big problems with religion. I don't really consider myself very religious. One of the big problems with it is when they come out and they're saying, blessed are the poor and you should give us money, when they live in a palace and they have their own city.
Right.
And you're like, well, this is kind of, in simple practical terms, this doesn't make sense. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with people being rich. I got zero issue with that. I just don't. I don't have a problem with somebody. I don't care if you have 15 private jets. I don't really care about the money aspect of it. My position has been like, well, are you living what you're talking about? Are you practicing what you're preaching? Are you doing any of this stuff?
Yeah.
Because in a lot of cases, most people are not.
Yeah.
There was that comedian, that black comedian, was awesome, man. He was doing the black preacher thing. It was some of the best comedy I think I've seen. It was last month. It was hilarious. He was playing the black preacher, and he was telling people they got to give him money, and then you see him drive off in a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
And somebody goes up and says, "Hey, Pastor so and so, I need to ask you a question." And he's like, "Hold on, get your hands off the car." And he's like, "Did you give tithes and offerings?" Like, well, "No, I don't have." He's like, "Then get the fuck away from me." And somebody drives off. Like, that was some funny shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's kind of what people see, and it's like, yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can continue to support someone like that.
Yeah.
Because it's such an obvious con.
Yeah, it was Drewski, the comedian Drewski.
That's who it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Oh, he was suspended, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was really funny.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this stuff is very surface level stuff, but if that is your surface, if that's what you're presenting to the world, you can't really expect people not to notice the facade. I mean, that's what a facade
someone's
is.
Going to notice it sooner or later.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can fool some people. Some people will continue to go along with all that and be okay with it, I suppose. Lid for every pot kind of thing, right? It's the television argument. Long time ago, I remember seeing this interview with Rod Serling. So Rod Serling was a writer he wrote a lot of the Twilight Zone from the 50s and 60s.
Oh, yep.
And brilliant writer. And he was being interviewed, and the question was television as a medium. Should it appeal to whatever the people are wanting? In other words, because there is this tendency to want to degrade over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or should television be used to try and elevate, in other words, it's a chicken and egg argument kind of thing, where if you're asking my opinion, I like the idea of asking more of the audience personally.
Yeah.
And asking the audience to be a little smarter.
Yeah.
If you want to call it that. Or try to give the audience something interesting and something to kind of maybe think on a little bit.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones was pretty good about that. As was Breaking Bad was pretty good about that. And because in a lot of cases there wasn't a lot of judgment on one side or the other. It was just like, it was kind of, what is your opinion, and are you thinking about it? And I actually liked that kind of content. And as it's bared out, I mean, like, there was that list of top 50 best TV shows or something like that, and I think Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones were like number one and two on the list. But then, but for every content like that, you have 100 content that is just complete garbage.
Spoon feeding. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's like it's almost deliberately dumbed down. It's the, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of it. It's like the first 3 seasons of Rick and Morty.
Yep.
First 3 seasons of Rick and Morty are fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
They're like astonishingly brilliant. It's satire. And that's all it is. I mean,
Yep.
a lot of it's cheap jokes and satire, but it's done in such a way that it's actually quite clever. And even though it works on that level, but then you see the deterioration happen.
Yeah.
And it happens with almost everything, whether it's The Simpsons or whatever. It's like you start to see this deterioration where instead of it reminds me of that kid, that poor kid. I really feel bad for this kid. There was I can't remember who it was. I don't remember his name, but it was years ago, and I think he's still on YouTube. But he was the kid who was doing like the dinner with Andre, or I don't know. It's not dinner with Andre. It's like whoever the kid's name, and it was him like eating and talking to the audience and talking about what he was eating, the food he was eating.
Yep.
And then it changed where the audience started telling him what to do. And before you know it, this poor kid is like 400 pounds. And people are kind of like openly mocking him.
Yeah.
With all of this. And it's like, so the audience changed him, not the other way around. He didn't change the audience.
Yeah.
And I think that can happen. I think that's what happened with things like TV and influencers and so forth. They just start chasing the audience instead of saying, no, I'm not going to chase the audience. This is what I'm doing here. You either, if you don't like it, leave. Continue fucking doom scrolling, dude.
That's a perfect analogy of, well, so much. It's way more profitable to give people what they want rather than what's good for them. It is. And that degradation, is kind of what I'm talking about with Christianity as a core of the beliefs of society. I was raised in a family that was like I call a satanic pagan family, and it was this like at the end stages of degradation. And I know it could have gone a lot further, but just the chaos that I was raised in, it was like, okay, I think there's a better way. That's what's led me to my beliefs, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like there is that regression to the mean.
Yeah,
I suppose. I mean, it's the and I suppose if on the broader sense, not to inject a hyper political note into this, but on the broader sense, I think that's what's happening overall in Western culture is that degradation that's happening. I don't think that I don't think that there's anything sinister necessarily behind it that's like pushing that agenda. I do think that exists, but I don't think that's what's driving it the most. I think it's almost going along with it as well. Like, oh, look, these people like all this stuff, so let's. It's like again, I think it's close to a chicken and egg kind of thing. Yeah, it is. There's the grift. There's the people that are like, oh, hey, let's just go cash in on this whole thing because I guess this is where things are going. Yeah. And it's like at a certain point, it's why one of the reasons I ask, because I'll get flipped a lot of shit about my position on police and military, and I'm like, well, I'm like, okay, well, my problem with the police is that they're just there for the money, and I'm okay with someone saying that as long as it's like that's what you're all about. But then if you're just there for the money, don't ask me to feel bad for you if anything happens to you. Don't ask me. No bagpipes and bullshit, dude. I don't want to hear any of that nonsense from you. Yeah. You're here today, gone tomorrow because you're just about the fucking money. But if you actually stand for something, okay, then that tells me that in theory there should be a line that you won't cross. Yep. That no matter how much money's offered, they could offer you planet Earth as your own private estate, and your answer is going to be no. And for at least from what I'm kind of seeing, like that seems to be like trying to find hen's teeth in the world right now. And that's to me, that's disturbing. That actually is a little disturbing to me, because again, it's especially as a young kid where you're told all this stuff. You're told, well, if your friends jump off a bridge, you're going to do it. You know, all these little platitudes. And then it turns out that, like, okay, so that's all changed. Now that's all bullshit. Now it's all like, yeah. So no wonder Gen Z is fucking, you know, no wonder these kids are messed up. No wonder they do the Gen Z stare where they, I'm somewhat sympathetic to it, because I think what they're doing is they're doing what I do when a long time ago, you know, years ago, you know, I get these, like, when you're younger, you get these tests, you know, IQ tests and things like that. And for me, I like IQ testing, to me is like bullshit. I don't put I put it in the category of phrenology.
Yeah.
I just don't put a lot of stock in it.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because I get something that I look at it and I have to process in my head, what answer does the person who wrote the test want?
Yeah.
That's how I end up looking at it.
Yeah. And
not what pattern do I see, because I might see a completely different pattern, but what pattern are you wanting me to say that I saw?
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens with a lot of younger people now, where they've been told a whole line of bullshit that now doesn't match anything in the real world. And so now they have to process, is this person being serious? Or is this person are they just part of the system? Are they just part of this whole, like, whatever the hell, this shared bullshit reality, you know, this simulation that we all share right now? Like, you know, that's sort of the vibe I kind of get off of some of the younger people, is that they're trying to wonder, is this real, or are you just saying this because you're expected to say this?
Yeah. Yeah, and IQ is testing for something specific, like you say. It's the same as grading in school. The A students will get the good jobs because they can sit and obediently follow orders and regurgitate what they've been told. And it's not designed. Yeah, I mean, I don't fully understand it, but it does seem like I agree with you there. But just speaking of Jesus and whatnot, you've been trying to be nicer. How's that working out for you?
It's not working. It's not working. I look, I suck as a human being, and I know that. I'm well aware of it. I go out of my way to try and avoid people to the best of my absolute ability, only because I guess for me, the older I get, the harsher I'm getting with people, because it's like just what we've been talking about. Like, it just seems like more people should know all this stuff, and this has been a challenge for me, because up until I was about 46, so which is a good long time. So imagine being 46, 47, somewhere thereabouts. It's right around that range is when this kind of hit me. I genuinely thought everybody else out in the world was more on the ball, that they were smarter, that they were better, that they were faster, that they genuinely knew something that I didn't know, or were able to do something that I wasn't able to do. And so for the longest time, you know, I just kind of believed all that. And a good friend of mine had said, you know, we were having a conversation, and we were talking about finances. And then I slowly drifted into some broader economic stuff, you know, stuff that I had worked really, really hard to try and understand, because I thought everybody else knew all this stuff. And I remember explaining a bunch of things. This was a long conversation, so I'm not going to try and regurgitate it, because this was over the course of like several months. You know, this is over a long pull of time. And, you know, I'd explained this, like, that I thought everybody knew this kind of stuff, and she was kind of pointing, like, no, nobody knows this stuff. Like, nobody. Like this some of the stuff you're talking about is groundbreaking. Like nobody knows, nobody thinks about this stuff like this. And I just assumed everybody knew all these kinds of things, and it was an assumption on my part.
Yeah.
And so it's what led me to be willing to teach some of this stuff. So the original financial physics videos going like way back, like I don't know, 4 years ago or something like that.
Okay.
And where I tried to explain the kind of how we got here, and I tried to encapsulate it as much as I could. I got it down to 19 videos that were a half hour each approximately. And the reason they were half hours because the camera I had timed out after a half of hour. So I had to try. That's the only reason that it wasn't done in like 2-hour sessions, is because I had 30 minutes with which to work.
Yeah.
And so, and I had a whiteboard behind me, and I would try and draw some of this stuff out. I would try and explain what I was seeing in the business world, because I spent all my time in business. I've never really had a traditional job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had a few of them here and there, but not like I've never had healthcare, for example. I've never had a job where I was offered like a healthcare package or something like that. Like I've never had those kinds of jobs. The jobs I've always had have always been the jobs that nobody else wants to do, because that's the only jobs that I could do.
Okay.
Was that, it wasn't that I didn't understand that the jobs that are out there, but it's like the jobs that at the time, that if you want to make a lot of money, at the time you had to have all kinds of degrees and credentials and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And so not having any of that, and I didn't want to spend the money on it, because I had this problem of I got told, like at lots of other like lots of millennials and Gen Z kids are getting told even to this day, just go to college, get a degree in anything, and then a company will hire. And it's just, none of that's true. It wasn't true when I was a kid. But it was being sold by everybody, because, and if I'm being charitable, I think boomers, many of them saw people with degrees as having more money. So of course the thinking being, oh, well, okay, so go get it. I'll tell my kids to go get a degree, and then they'll make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
There's this, again, you have this, that correlation causation kind of thing going on here. Not realizing that, like, okay, did the person with a degree, is their family blue in Wikipedia? What does it say for early life?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's usually where this stuff comes from. It's not 100% bullseye, but like, dude, yeah, usually it's even Cernovich pointed this out a long time ago. And I'm so glad that even though I disagree with Cernovich on a bunch of things,
mm-hmm.
but I'm so glad that even he pointed this out, that it is not the same thing to say that you started from nothing and your father is an orthopedic surgeon, your mother is a tax attorney, and you live in $1 million house, or $2 million, or a $2 million house in the 90s, which meant something.
Yeah.
Like that was a big fucking house.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay, yes, you may have started off with nothing, but that's not the same thing as the kid in the projects.
Yeah.
That's just not even the same thing, man. They have connections. It's like, this is one of these kinds of things, and that is a reality.
Absolutely.
And that's the part that gets kind of ignored, is that actually is something that is a reality that was never really seen. It was always sold as like, you can be anything. Like, no, you can't. Not really. Like, there are some limitations. Like, you would not want to make me an astronaut, for example. That would be a terrible idea. I saw that movie, Project Hail Mary.
Okay.
For the first time in a long time. Actually, me and some friends went to the movies because we were like, okay, we want to see this movie, because there's no the message in it. Okay, that's point. And movie going now has shifted from, this movie's going to be great. It's turned into, I hope this movie doesn't suck. Right? That's the but it turns out it was a really good movie. And there was this one line, it kept saying, like, like, where he's pointing out, like, I'm not an astronaut. Like, I am not an astronaut. You would not want to send me in space. Like, yeah, I would say the same thing. You probably wouldn't want me to be a surgeon. I've got a very steady hand, but I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, maybe there's some attributes, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's not, organs are slippery. I don't have any practice like that other than taking apart chicken for my restaurant. So,
chickens, humans, just roughly, it's yeah.
Well, and pork, there is some similarity there, but but yeah, it's like that's what I mean. Like, so I think that boomers made kind of this leap and telling people to go get degrees, thinking that was going to be the end all. And then of course you cut to 25, 30 years later and you've got people going, hold on, I've got an engineering degree and I can't get a call back from Starbucks.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's because you still needed to have those guys, who go out and dig ditches. As someone who digs ditches myself, I mean, yeah. I'm still building my house. I mean, if anybody's like followed my work on my other Twitter page, the lesser known one, I've got all these trenches, and I read it, like, yeah, dude, we had to do all that.
Yeah,
and it's really filthy work, and it's like, and you're in the dirt all day long, and you're sweating, so the dirt is sticking to you, and it's like, but someone has to do that stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing is that those are the jobs that nobody wants to do, but it's like those are the jobs that are the most necessary.
Yeah.
And
well, those are the jobs that the people doing them now are doing better and better. I'm finding that
they kind of are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in the States, they're still importing a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of visas and illegals.
Yeah.
That is still a huge problem. So, I mean, I say that from the truck driver perspective, as someone who drove a truck for 15 years, we don't have the big land trains like Australia. Like they have those massive land trains. Like we don't have those up here. The longest we get are triples, and they're the short ones.
Okay.
But I drove a semi truck for a long time, and they've imported so many people that the industry is so unprofitable. And I don't say that from an erudite perspective of like, oh, it's not profitable enough, I'm only making $500,000 a year. No. I'm saying that like the amount of profit is so far below the cost to even run the equipment that I can't run the equipment because it's below cost.
Yeah.
There's only so far you can go before you can volume yourself right out of business. And and I've seen just too many people who've done that in business. In my tenure in business, I've seen lots of people come and go, whether it's the pawn business, it doesn't make any difference what industry that I've been in. I've seen guys do that. They try to go in and compete against something, and with the idea of lowering the price to try and draw people in. But the problem is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you end up voluming yourself right out of business because people tend to get used to that price.
Yep.
And then you can't go back and change it. You can always come down. You can't go back up. And that's a reality. So
yeah, no, you need with those kinds of strategies, you need a Google strategy where you come in, you offer a better product, you offer a lower price. Like Facebook, we're not watching you like the other one was, and all this, and then you lock them in. And then once you've locked them in, then you're selling the data and you're spying on them and all this. So it's this whole deception thing. I remember seeing a post of yours a while ago where you were talking about how you would haul a load and then you would get to the other end and there'd be nothing for you to bring back. And so you would have to come back in. Is that happening? I imagine that's happening a lot more now.
It's always happened. It's happened for a long time, but it's what used to happen. Not to get too far into the trucking sector, but I will comment on it because I know that there's probably truck drivers that do watch this, and there are truckers that actually watch some of my content. So, but what happens is that let's say you take a load from point A to point B, and point B is like a black hole for freight. Like there's just nothing out of there, and Denver comes to mind, along with a few other places, Salt Lake City, and like they're just, at least for flatbed, they're just kind of a black hole. And unless you have a contact there, unless you have something there, it's kind of a black hole for people to just go there and they just, you end up having to deadhead out of there.
Yep.
But that ends up happening usually with a lot of guys who don't really understand how the game is played. They'll hear what sounds like a really good rate into a black hole, and then they sit there for 4 days idling the engine and spending $25 every time they get out of the truck to go to the truck stop, because everything's expensive.
Yep.
And any profit you might have made is gone, because now you're sitting there for 4 days trying to find something out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, that's really kind of how it is. And when you've done it long enough, you learn this kind of stuff. You start saying, okay, well, there's something going in there, and they're going to pay this much money. It has to pay more, because I have to deadhead to another city or another area to find something out of there, because there's not a whole lot going on. So it ends up being the same price whether it's going to Denver or Seattle. It ends up being basically the same price, because I've got to go, another 500-600 miles, 700 miles out of my way to get to someplace where there's something getting out of there that's leaving. Otherwise, your truck is just sitting there. And if you live in the truck, it works for the younger guys, like in the old days, if you're like 21, 22, and you don't really have any responsibilities, you still live at home technically, even though you're never really at home.
Mm-hmm.
Your mail goes to your parents' house, kind of thing.
Yep.
You could get away with driving a truck like that for like 5, 6, 10 years, and then just basically bank everything, put everything away, because you didn't really have a whole lot of bills. But those days are kind of gone now, and especially with the new guy, the industry itself flooding in all these people that they're paying basically nothing. They're paying these guys, like, for really, they're just paying them nothing.
Yeah.
And they're shoving them into the truck. They know that they can keep them there because they're here in many cases on a scam visa. They're supposed to be working at some so-called tech company. So-and-so, blah, 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 fill in the blank tech company.
Yep.
They don't work for a tech company. They drive a semi-truck.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who brought them in, it's all fraud. And they throw the guy in the truck and they say, okay, listen, do you want to go back to your home country, or do you want to stay here and try and make some money? And of course, the guys, they want to stay there because of the difference in the currency imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
For India, for example, it's $1 is 96 rupees, I think. Something like, it's almost 100 rupees. Well, so I would ask any American, I would say the same thing to an American. If you could go to another country and act a complete fool, do whatever the hell you want, you're not going to get in trouble for it, and I'm going to pay you roughly 100 times what you're going to make in your home country, every American would take that deal. In fact, if they didn't, I would look at you and tell you you're a fool not to take it. I mean, why wouldn't you? Why would let's say that you could go to, I don't know, Mexico. Right? Let's just reverse it. You could go to Mexico, and I'm going to pay you 100 times what you would make in the States. So if you're going to make $10 an hour in the States, I'm going to pay you $1,000 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and while you're in Mexico, you can get drunk, do whatever you want, crash into cars, fuck everything up, vote in their elections, fuck all their rape, rob, pillage, do whatever the hell you want to do while you're there. And the worst that's going to happen is that you might get deported.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
So, it's like, yeah, that's the kind of thing that has happened. So I didn't want to try and get off into that end of that subject, but I mean,
yeah,
in terms of trucking, that's what's happened.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you end up getting stuck in these freight black hole areas.
Mm-hmm.
And, Florida is a good example. Florida is basically a black hole.
Yeah.
In the entire state of Florida, you go, trucks check in, they don't check out. It's like a roach motel. All the truck stops are just plugged full of trucks that are trying to find a way out of Florida.
Yeah.
It's kind of how it is.
Well, that leads me nicely into this next question. So what's the biggest lesson from real-world production and labor that Wall Street types completely miss?
That's a good question. I want to make sure I understand it. You're asking as far as like the You're asking about the difference between the people in Wall Street versus the real world. Is that
Yeah,
what
100%.
you're
Yeah.
asking?
The boots on the
So
ground versus the, yeah.
this has been my experience. This is just what I've seen. So I can only give you my ideas. You know, I think that most people, not all, but most people who are in the suits, so to speak, these are professional executives. In other words, these are people that, again, if you were to go to Wikipedia and look up early life, yeah, these are like these are professional executives that, and what they've learned is nothing but theory. In most cases, they know how to. They've been taught theory by a theoretician, who taught a theoretician, who then taught them. They don't have any correlation with real life, with what's actually going on. These are bean counters. These are these are the kinds of people who come up with ideas like Oracle. Let's send a generic "you're fired" email to 30,000 people. You know, like, these are the people who come up with this kind of shit.
Yeah.
These are people who don't see anybody working for them as a human being. They see them as replaceable labor units. They're here today, gone tomorrow. This is a very Soviet way of thinking. It really is. That's how the Soviets saw a lot of this. They saw people as just labor. And you know, Yuri Mulsev. So not to be confused with Yuri Benzvanov. Yuri Mulsev is an economist, and the late Yuri Mulsev. He died, I think, 2-3 years ago. But I loved his lectures whenever I would see them, where he would talk about the Soviet Union, because he was a Soviet defector. He was an economist who defected, you know, near the end of the Soviet Union. I want to say he defected in like 86, 87. So just maybe a couple of years before the collapse of the Soviet Empire. And he would talk about this. He would talk about the history of, like, yeah, I mean, you know, like, well, how do we motivate people? I don't know how to motivate people. Well, okay, then just take a few of them out in the street and shoot them publicly until people get the message. That's what this is, for better or for worse. It's the same basic idea. And like, well, you're not mowing people down. Well, you don't have to. You don't have to anymore. Now you just basically impoverish them to the point where they can't function any longer. That's all you have to do. And then if they do anything about it, they're criminals. You just, you know, and of course, that's what all the data centers, at least in my opinion, that's all that's for, is just to collect so much data that eventually when they want to get rid of you, they just go find something somewhere, anywhere in your history.
Anything.
That is mildly illegal.
Yeah.
And then there's a show trial, which is, again, right out of the Soviet Union. And then you know, you wind up in Archipelago. I mean, this is like Solzhenitsyn wrote a whole book about this. And that's kind of what I see the disconnect. So in terms of your corporate executives, so where I'm going with all that, having said all that, is that most of these people, these professional executives, you notice it, or I notice it when you deal with people on the ground. You know, I'll use trucking as an example. Since we were just talking about trucking, let me use this example. I get a phone call. Axel, hey, I have this load. It's this product, and it's going from A to B. Great. What is it? I don't know. Okay. Can you call and find out what it is so that I know if I have the proper equipment to secure it? Just to make double sure. And does it need to be tarp? Does it need this? Does it need, you know, I have a bunch of questions. And nobody can get the answers to these. Nobody. Because there's like 60 people in the middle of this.
Yeah.
You know, and no one can get the answers. But as soon as I talk to somebody on the ground, I show up and I talk to the guy, you know, the actual guy. Then I get all of the answers instantly because they know everything. And they're like, you know, what the hell? Who told you all this bullshit? Like, we're not doing any of that. This is the kind of thing that happens. And the suits, for lack of a better term, these guys don't know this stuff. They're trying to push the idea of, like, well, we can automate all this. No, you cannot automate this kind of stuff. You can automate things to a certain extent at the digital level, but you can't automate them in the physical sense. For reasons I just said, like, there's no way to check for every single eventuality. And even if you could do something like that at the automated level, you still have to deal with your problems, and you still have to deal with the human factor for all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, from what I'm seeing, this is their hubris. This is the idea of, we don't want to work. We just want to have everything set up to where it's always done. But it's like you're trying to cheat the laws of physics, and it doesn't work. I've used the analogy before. If you could cheat the laws of physics, here's how this would work. You could set up a hydroelectric dam, and the water would run down the spillway, and it turns the impeller, which then turns the turbine, which creates electricity. And then you would use that electricity to run a pump to pump the water back up, and then let it come back down the spillway. And then, and anybody who knows anything about the laws of thermodynamics or any physics at all, like even basic physics, knows that doesn't actually work. No, of course it doesn't. It takes more, because you have...
It actually, it can't work from a practical sense. If that worked in physics, everything would be exploding all the time.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. It's like, that's why you can't have something like that actually function.
Yeah.
And that's going to carry through. Ultimately, a lot of it turns into NIMBYism. Because it's like, okay, well, who's building all these little robots? Well, a bunch of slave kids in other countries. But as long as you don't have to see the little slave kids in other countries, then to you it seems, oh, this is really cheap. No, it's really not. So at the executive level, many of these guys don't. I think probably the best example that we've seen recently that typifies this is the McDonald's CEO. That infamous video that went hyper viral of him, with his Big Mac, fries, and a Coke, right? Iconic American meal, one that I have not eaten in a very, very, very long time, because I just don't want to eat it.
Yeah,
but it's good. I resist it. I don't do it.
Yeah.
but he takes that really very tiny bite out of it,
an Obama sip,
and oh my God, and it's like. This, and because he came from Bain Capital, I think, or he came from Procter and Gamble. That's where it was. He came from Procter and Gamble, which is, like most of these people, again, they're just professional executives. They don't really know anything about the product. That was the other thing too. He kept calling it the product.
The product.
Yeah, he kept saying he never said burger and fries. He kept calling it the product, because that's how they see it. Like, oh, this is just a consumable product that that you eat it and then you replace it. That's it. It's not like there is this huge detach that happens. And what was funny about that, which is why it went viral, is because everybody's watching this going, "What the fuck are you, dude?" And of course, I would look at this. I'm a businessman, so I look at this and go, "Who the fuck is your publicist, dude? You need to fire them immediately." Because your image consultant and your publicist fucked you by letting you post that video.
Yeah.
There is no... If you were my client, I would have probably smacked you before. Dude, erase that shit.
Yeah.
Go get another one. Let's start over.
Yeah.
You're not going to do this, because you're going to embarrass the shit out of yourself. And every other burger joint CEO went completely fucking crazy. It was the funniest shit. Wendy's, all of them. Oh my God. I think I think it was Wendy's. The Wendy's CEO went into a Wendy's and said, "I'm going to make a burger," and actually made all of his shit right there, and then ate it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Dude, what the hell? This isn't the product. This is like, what the fuck?"
Now I want to go to McDonald's and just walk in and go, "The product, please."
That's it. That's it. Yeah, that's it. This is it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. That there is this difference. There is this massive disconnect with these guys. Many of them don't really understand what they're doing. Again, it's like they see it as the product. They're just there to they're in the money business. They're not in the product selling business. Henry Ford was in the car business. The people that are there now, they're just in trying to figure out how to finance shit.
They're the numbers business.
They're in... because they make way more money on the financing than they do the actual product, the actual car, which is why the cars look like shit. They don't look like, Australia. They don't look like a 73 XB GT.
Yeah.
They don't look like that anymore. They don't look cool. There's cool Falcons. That shit's long gone. No, they look like little bubble cars now.
Yeah.
Everything looks like a fucking bubble. Everything is like a hybrid bubble mid-size SUV type vehicle, and they all look alike. You have to look at the badging on the cars to know what the hell they are, because one could be a Kia, the other could be a Scion, and one could be a Toyota, one could be a Ford, and you would unless you go look at the emblems, you have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
And they're all made in the same fucking factory.
Yeah, one makes the bodies, one makes the engines. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like there isn't. It's the idea of trying to not compete, and this theory, the theory goes like this. I think at that level. Let's assume for just a second here. I'm going to be generous and say that none of these people are controlled. None of these people owe zillions of dollars to bankers and shit like that. They haven't been to the Epstein Island. I'm just going to assume they haven't done any of that. Let's just assume that it's just pure incompetence.
Yep.
I think what's happened is that the idea is, hey, we want to try and lift people out of poverty by providing all of this stuff to them that they can buy, as opposed to, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should let people lift themselves out of poverty and let them kind of choose their own adventure. Maybe they don't want to have a white bubble car or a gray bubble car. Maybe they're cool with driving around in like a mid-70s car, that they can work on and that lasts forever. Kind of thing. Maybe they're okay with stuff like that. I mean, like, this is just, it's just a different kind of mentality there.
They're making those, some companies come out and do that with various products, like the I don't know much about it, but there's something called a nothing phone, and so there are people making these kind of more retro products. But I've always wondered why they don't do that with cars, and cars that
it would be very cool. It would be really cool if you did
I think there'd be a massive market for it, I'd imagine.
I think there is. I think there absolutely is a massive market for stuff that looks cool, that is retro.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, like, every day that goes by, I see somebody comment about, like, I want to be able to buy a Toyota Hilux.
Yeah.
That aren't very expensive. In Australia, in fact, there's a video that came out of Australia. I think it was the Toyota Land Cruiser, one of the 70 series Land Cruisers, and people in America go, oh my God, they would love to have stuff like that. It had power windows, yes, but everything else was basically manual, and like, yeah, and it's built to last forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of people who would love stuff like that.
I guess that is the issue with it. It is built to last forever. They want you to be constantly updating, replacing things.
And that's where I was going with that, by the way. Thank you for you just reminded me of something. I was going to say that at the corporate level, you've got the idea is, we don't want to innovate anything. We just want to keep selling the same shit over and over and over and over to people. Innovation costs money. Innovation takes resources. It takes, and you have to have creative people. And companies hate creative people. Yeah. They absolutely hate creative people.
Oh, yeah.
So, because creative people, they just operate differently. They operate on a different wavelength. That's why they're creative. Those are your artists. Those are your people who pen, the late 60s Mustangs. Late 60s Chevelles and things like that. Those are the people who come up with those ideas. Those are artists. Those are guys who see it and say, there has to be an aesthetic.
Yep.
It can't just be a car. There has to be an aesthetic that goes with it, and a feel when you get in it. That's what you're after. Everything now is sterile. It's like going to the fucking hospital. I mean, all that's missing is in the new car is replacing new car smell with triethylene glycol. That's all that's missing. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so, but that would be what I would say is, like, this, instead of doing that idea where you're trying to innovate and come up with something better. No, it's just make shit and just keep people buying and keep people paying interest on it.
Yep.
and extend the payments and just more interest, more debt, more. It's like, and I think people are getting frustrated by it. They are. I do see it. More people are getting frustrated every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that noise on your end, by the way?
I'm getting it on my end as well. I'm not sure where it's coming from. I thought it might have been my audio system. So I have had a few problems with it. It's not too bad. I think we can just keep going.
I moved my phone away from the computer. So
okay.
I don't know if maybe that was the case.
Interference from that. That could be it. I might do the same thing. Yeah.
So I moved my phone away from the computer. Maybe there was some feedback going on there.
Yeah. Just back to what you said this just linked to a tweet you did a little while ago. The one of my favorite lines. I love that movie, The Big Short. I think it's a great movie.
I just saw it.
Yeah. Actually. Well, I was going to say one of the great lines from it, and I think it's from the clip you posted, which is Brad Pitt when he says, "The thing I hate about banking is it reduces people to numbers." And he quotes that figure. He says, every 1% unemployment goes up, 40,000 people die.
Yeah.
That's the world they live in. The miracle of that movie, which I thought was brilliant movie making, was they made you feel sorry for these people who, made billions of dollars. And you kind of empathized with them. What a tough time they had.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
You do empathize a tiny bit with it, even though they're like, yeah, they made a lot of money off it, but they're also getting chastised, especially the two young kids were, again, the banker, the Brad Pitt character. I can't remember the name of that character, unfortunately.
No.
But that character is actually quite brilliant. And I really liked that character. It's why I posted that.
Yeah.
It's because that character didn't walk away with a bunch of money.
No.
That, in the movie, he pretty much makes the money for these kids and then sends them on their way, and that's the end of it. He doesn't really. Yeah. He's just, he sees it for what it is. Like, there's other things that have to be a bit more valuable. Now, again, that doesn't mean that money isn't important. The name of my channel is Financial Physics. I don't have a problem with people making. I don't. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the expense of what? And that's part of the physics part of that. Is like, okay, I mean, like. Yeah, at the expense of what?
Yeah.
Are you doing it the right? In other words, are you providing a better product at a better price, to the marketplace, and that people are rewarding you because they want to buy your product?
Yeah.
Or are you doing the, I can't, sort of the Jordan Belfort thing, where you take someone's pen and then sell it back to them because they need a pen. It's like. You're sort of creating a demand that didn't exist.
Yeah.
This is the idea in the States here. I don't know if they're doing this in Australia. They probably are. Building these data centers that nobody gives a shit about. And there's no market for it. There is no mass market. Nobody wants these data centers. Nobody. I ran a poll and I asked, because Iran is threatening to blow up data centers. And so I ran a poll and I said, does anybody give a shit about this? I think I gave him a chance. I said, who gives a fuck about this? 0 to 1 fucks, 2 to 3 fucks, and then I think it was 4 to 6 fucks do you give? And then the fourth answer was negative 10 fucks. And most people were like, you owe me.
Yeah.
I care so little about that. Tells me that there is really no market for any of this that's organic. This is just a handful of billionaires and government subsidies building these things. And the challenge, of course, is that it lowers the water table. That is a big problem. People don't realize that that's actually a huge problem for farming and agriculture. The lower you look, the lower the water table, the more they have to keep going back and drilling wells, which is very expensive. And at a certain level of depth, it becomes prohibitively expensive to do this. And then, of course, what do a lot of farmers end up doing? Like, oh man, I can't afford this anymore. I guess I better go borrow some more money. Yeah. You're right back in the rat race. And it's this constant debt. In the States, something like, I don't remember how many it was, but I mean, it makes sense. The boomers between 1964 or 1946 and 1964, that's the boomer. And the peak birth year was 1961. That was the pinnacle.
Okay.
And so let's go 30 years from there. You have 1991. So I have a bunch of boomers. This big, massive wave of boomers bought houses in the 90s. And those houses, of course, it's 30 years later now. Many of them are paid off. So if you're not paying a bunch of interest to bankers on these houses, they got to come up with some other gimmick to get you to keep either borrowing money or paying higher taxes or something, because it's a closed loop system. Because you have to, because in order to create money, in order to create a dollar, somebody has to borrow a dollar.
Yeah.
If everybody pays off a dollar, then dollar becomes completely worthless. So yeah, this is this vicious cycle that people have gotten themselves into. And I have to apologize because I don't remember your original question.
Oh, the original question.
I got sidetracked on my own thought there.
Yeah, no, that's all good. It was about the difference between the lesson from the real world versus the Wall Street.
That part. Yeah, I kind of tied that.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Then I just brought up. I remember I voted in your poll, and I voted 0 to 1.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was. The poll. It was we were talking about the bankers and the movie The Big Short. I'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
And I decided to watch it because I was curious, and in fact, I got a bunch of. I actually got somebody DM me and they said, "You've never seen them before?" They're like, I said, "No, I actually hadn't." I had to look up who Michael Berry was. I had to look all this stuff up because, it all makes perfect sense. In retrospect, looking back, dude, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
it's the same. 2 years ago, 2 years and 3 months ago, I did a video where I told landlords that this was coming. I said, "Hey, you're going to have some problems here. You have overpaid for these properties, and people aren't going to be able to afford all this kind of stuff." And I think I just titled it "My Landlord's Video" or something like that, and it got a whole bunch of hate. A lot of people saw it and got a whole mess of hate.
Yep.
And I pointed this out again with, I did a follow-up video, and I said, "Yeah, this was a couple of years ago that I pointed this out." And somebody had posted a chart that showed right here where the divergence took place. Just coincidentally, or not, I guess not coincidentally, that's when I did that video. It was right when there was this divergence where the rent prices started going so far out of control. It's like, yeah, dude, people can't afford to do this. This is no different than 2008. It's no different. It's no different. It's no different than you put people. There was people bought houses and their mortgage back then was like $800 a month. They could afford it, but it was an adjustable rate ARM.
Yeah.
And then it resets to $1,800. They cannot afford that.
Yeah.
They don't have the money. And the same thing happens with rents. They can't afford it. And there's this delusional thing that happens with lots and lots and lots of landlords, and it still happens to this day, where they say, "Well, I'll just go after the top tier tenants." Yeah, you and everybody else.
Yeah.
You have the exact same problem that I see you people bitch about on Twitter, where it's like, you have 90% of women chasing 10% of men.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly the same situation. It's identical.
Yep.
You ended up changing the market to the point where the market can't function any longer because you're too far out.
Yeah.
And people are not gonna be able to keep up with that. So one of two things has to happen. Either prices come way the fuck down, or incomes go way the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see it happening with incomes. I don't think that's going to happen. So that means that prices either have to come down, or you have a stagnant economy. You have basically everything goes to shit. It just locks up and it just stops working altogether.
Yeah. So something interesting I saw. Now, I haven't looked into this. This is something I heard on the internet, so I'm not 100% certain about this, but it kind of tracked, because Israel, even though there's the whole Iran war, which Israel are kind of saying, well, we're not sending our troops are busy. We've got other people to kill. They're now invading Lebanon, and I saw something that said Lebanon's national debt is something like $18 million. So nothing. I think that might. I'm wondering if that's a big part of it. Like if they're saying, well, these people, they're not generating income for us. We need like the more. It seems the more debt they have, the more value they have. The more they'll be protected.
A company. Let's go to company. Let's say that you have a business, and your business is a cash business, meaning that I don't mean like physical. It just meaning that you don't carry any debt. You everything is either on a 30-day note or something like that. You carry no long-term debt. My company is that way. We are a cash business. We don't have really any debt. The debt we have, I think, as of today, is $171. I'm serious. We just do not carry debt.
Yeah.
And we are absolutely hated.
Yeah.
As a result of this. Because because they want us to borrow more and have more inventory and be responsible. They want us to do more of this, and it's like, no, that doesn't make any sense financially to do that, especially with the rates that you're wanting. If you were talking about something like 1% or something like that, then maybe we could have some kind of conversation if I thought that was going to be the case, but that's not what ends up happening nowadays. What ends up happening nowadays is people get themselves wrapped into a level of debt they're not prepared for. And, just like 30,000 Oracle employees found out, how many of them, maybe just financed a car 2 months ago and now they're fired.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like this is a huge problem, and companies love this. I remember being a good friend of mine is very high up, an executive at GameStop, and I'm not going to say his name or anything. So but I remember this is years ago. We were talking about this, and he was saying, yeah, I mean, if I have a manager or one of the area managers, district managers, or regional managers, I see him show up and they've got a brand new car and they just bought a new house. He's like, I got them.
Yeah,
I got them. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Now I don't have to give him big raises. Now he's not like that, but the point he was making to me was that, yeah, that's how this works.
Yep.
Is that companies see that, they notice it, they look at this and go, okay, so we don't have to really, and I think that's actually one of the problems that they do with the credit check thing with people who apply it for jobs. I think if your finances look too good, they're not going to hire you.
Okay.
Because it's like, well, all right, so this guy here who has no debt, let's say, and we're going to hire this guy, like, okay, yeah, we don't have to pay him a lot of money, but we're going to have to give him raises. Otherwise he can leave anytime he wants.
Yeah.
He can fucking bounce anytime he wants.
Yeah.
Like, so they start to see it as kind of risky themselves.
Yeah, no, we want to dictate the terms.
Right. I mean, there's a problem with that.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, you're right. As far as like Lebanon's concerned and or any other country, I think that people or people or countries or civilizations that don't carry a lot of debt become a bit of a threat, especially when other people start seeing it.
Yeah.
Other people start seeing this and they say, I want that life. It's the Amish thing. In the US we have the Amish. And many people have been recently pointing this out, myself included. The Amish kind of had the right of it. They don't borrow a bunch of money. They don't, like there's a bunch of stuff they don't. Yeah, no, they live really like very, very simple lives and so on. But it's like, yeah, many of those lives are becoming extremely expensive to live that life. Because they don't have a whole bunch of debt. I mean, try and do it.
Yeah.
I mentioned today in I think a video today. I pointed this out. Like if you owned your property, and you own your house and all your stuff, whatever stuff you have, and your car, and you had zero debt, just that, just that right there. How close to retirement are you? You're pretty goddamn close.
Yeah.
You're in a position. You're in that John Goodman fuck you position. The movie The Gambler.
Yeah.
Which is a Dostoevsky book, by the way. I found that out.
Really?
I looked it up. That's actually a Fyodor Dostoevsky book from 1860 or something like that. That's where I watched that movie too, and I was like, this is shockingly brilliant. I know people aren't going to like this movie because it's a little too cerebral maybe, but it's like, and it's a little esoteric, but it's like, this is surprisingly, so I had to look it up. I'm like, okay, that explains it. This is Dostoevsky. Okay, that explains the philosophy behind all of this.
Yeah.
That totally, now I get it. Now I understand why, what the film is trying to point out. But there's that character, the loan shark, played by John Goodman, and his total screen time is like 12 minutes in the entire movie. It's like basically nothing. He's not he's part of the cast, but he's not like the main character, and he's only in it like 12, 13 minutes total.
Yeah.
But that character hits like a brick. Hits like an absolute brick. When he tells him, he's like, a wise man's life is built on fuck you. And
that's great.
That is, it really is. Well, the whole idea, if you haven't seen the movie, or if you're not familiar, I'll briefly run it down.
I haven't, so please do.
He just points out, he tells the guy in front of him, who's played by Mark Wahlberg, he tells him, he says, he's a gambler, this is a gambling junkie, and he says, look, I've seen you be up $500,000, and the Wahlberg character responds, he says, well, I've been up $2.5 million, and the loan shark says, well, how much money do you have? Nothing. Do you have anything put away? Nothing. And he's like, you get up $2.5 million. Any asshole in the world knows what to do. You buy a house with a 25-year roof, an indestructible Jap economy shitbox. You put the rest in the system to 3 to 5%, pay your taxes, and that's your base. That's fuck you right there. You are at a level of fuck you. Your boss tells you to do something, fuck you. It's like for real. You have no care in the world at that point. That's how powerful that is. If you really think about that, that's accurate. That's very accurate, actually. That's some of the best financial advice you could probably ever give somebody.
Yeah.
Own your house. I think he continues and he says, own your house, have a couple of bucks in the bank, don't drink. Like, yeah, that's, dude. I mean, and I would say for the vast majority, for probably 90% of men, that would solve like almost every problem they have.
Yeah.
I mean, just that would solve so many of their problems, because then it's not a big deal to find a girlfriend or a wife.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
I mean, because you don't have a ton of debt, and as long as you don't let her put you in debt, if you manage to keep that under control, and then the chances of you having a fairly decent life are pretty good, but that's not profitable.
It's interesting.
The other side of that is not profitable.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. There's another story on the same side, the gambling issue, and I think this goes to human nature quite a bit. There's a guy, he's a gambler, degenerate gambler. He's, he's won millions, he's lost millions. His wife's left him, his kid's gone, he doesn't even own his house. He, he's at the bottom. He dies. And he wakes up in this place, and it's a beautiful casino. It's there's gold walls, ceilinged roofs. There's ladies walking around with drinks, and he's got a big stack of chips. And he goes to the first table, and it's the blackjack table. He puts down $100. Bam, bam. He's got blackjack straight away. He's like, oh my God, I won. Goes again, doubles his bet. Bam, bam, blackjack straight away. He's like, oh, I've got a hot hand. After a while, he picks up his stack now, huge stack of chips. Goes to the next table. It's the roulette wheel. Throws a bunch of money on 19. Spins. It comes up 19. He just wins. He cannot lose. Last table he goes to baccarat. Again, he just hits. He's winning. He turns to the guy next to him and he says, wow, I thought I would have gone to the other place. And the guy next to him says, this is the other place.
Yeah. It's called a nice place to visit.
That's, yeah. That's it.
There's a Twilight Zone episode.
Mhm.
It's called A Nice Place to Visit with Sebastian Cabot is in it, and it's in the first season, 1959 Twilight Zone, and that is actually a, if you understand what you're watching, that's a terrifying episode.
Yeah.
It really is, because it touches on a philosophy that I think that many people don't really want to think about. That one of the challenges with human existence is that you kind of need to have imperfection. If you had everything you ever wanted all the time, that actually is a form of hell.
Yeah.
It really is a problem. I don't usually go into the, I mean, like it's I'm willing to go into this, absolutely, but I mean, it's like, but I mean, the last few live streams that I've done, like on TikTok, someone will bring stuff like that up, and I'll actually answer it, and I'll point that out, like, yeah, you have to have challenges, but the difference is understanding what kind of challenges you need to have.
Mm-hmm.
As a, do we need to have, because in other words, life is already challenging enough within your own sphere of influence and your own sphere of existence, let alone without adding all of the rest of this crazy shit piled on top, because it becomes too much.
Yeah.
And then it becomes where, okay, in other words, you want to have a game, sure, but you can't make the game to the point where no one ever wins, right? So let's take the exact opposite and say, okay, a casino where you never win, ever. No one will ever go in that casino.
It's called losers.
Right. I mean, it's like, if you think about it like this, it's like, there's a great movie, Scorsese film called Casino. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a great movie. And the casino manager, played by, De Niro, he says, "Where are the loose slots?" to the slots guy. And he says, "Oh, they're way in the back." He's like, "No, dude, move those up here where the action is. You want people to look like they're winning." Right? Like, I mean, yes, on a long enough timeline, everybody in here loses everything. That's the truth. On a long enough timeline, because the odds are in the house's favor. So it doesn't matter. On a long enough timeline, everybody walks out of there owing, they lose money.
Yeah.
Occasionally, people do have to win. And the psychology, that's how you keep a casino open. When someone shows up and they just have a hot night, whatever, and they win huge, the smart thing that all the really smart casino bosses do is immediately get pictures, bright lights, and this guy is a fucking hero.
Yeah.
Oh my God, look at how much money he made. Look at how successful he was. He won all this money here at my casino. Come on down. And like, there is a psychology that goes with that. And anybody who's ever studied casinos, I studied casinos for a long time. Like, that, like, the players don't have a chance.
Yeah.
The players don't have a prayer, dude. It's not going to happen. The numbers, the math says otherwise.
Yeah.
Occasionally, there's a statistical anomaly of the guy who shows up and he bets black at blackjack or at the roulette table and lets it ride for like 6 spins, and it comes up black for 6 in a row. And he's got this big pile of money. Yes, that does happen. It's a statistical anomaly, though, when that happens. That's not the ordinary. It's not usually how that works. And, of course, when that kind of stuff does happen, table limits usually cap that.
Yeah.
They don't let you go too far with that. And, so it's like if you have a casino where you always win, that's a form of hell. A casino where no one ever wins, no one's ever going in that casino.
Yeah.
No one will ever go there. So they have to have this little balance. What's happening now, what I'm seeing is an imbalance. Now you have people that are so depressed and demoralized is the word I would use.
Yeah.
That now you have people who don't even want to play the games anymore. Like, was it Gen Z doesn't even drink anymore? Like, there's that chart, that infamous chart the bar charts we've all seen, right? Not bar, like drinking bar, but like a bar chart.
Yep.
Where it shows boomers, big bar here. Gen X, and it's a slightly shorter one. Millennials, it's like almost on par with alcohol with Gen X, and then there's just nothing. It just like Gen Z, there's just nothing. They don't drink.
Really?
Nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, they're basically teetotalers.
Yeah.
They're the most boring people in the world. I'm not saying this is a dig. I'm pointing this out. Like this is a huge problem. Like, yeah, you broke them.
Yeah.
You broke their humanity basically. Now you have a bunch of young people who are like, I don't know what else. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Because no matter what I do, I'm in a casino that I can never win ever. That's problem number one. And problem number two is that I am always have to be in debt. So, and there's no way for me to get out of debt.
Yeah.
That has a demoralizing effect on people.
Yeah.
And it gives them no hope for the future. Like, yeah, when you lose that, that's not good. That's really not good. Now, false hope is not better than no hope. I'm one of the advocates. I don't like giving people false hope.
Yeah.
The real hope would be like, well, when you have no hope of doing things the legal way, you have to do it the illegal way. You got to change. I mean, this means you got to change the rules. Burn a fucking casino down.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, that's along with all the data centers. Nobody gives a shit about the data centers.
No.
Like we'll see if this. I don't think that the Trump administration is going to do the 10 things that Iran wanted. They released a list of the 10 things they wanted. Their list of demands is actually pretty tame.
Yeah.
They weren't even asking for him to be fired. If I were in that situation, I would say, nah, dude, he's got to Boomer's got to go.
Yeah.
He's got to be fired. Actually, you know what? Send him over here. We're going to have him rebuild some shit that he blew up.
Yeah.
He can be out here, working with everybody else. But I'm old school. So, yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't think that's going to happen. So it's like, all right, well, we'll see what happens with all this bullshit.
It's a crazy situation. I mean, we're in Tuesday here now, and this is the day. So I'm waiting for you guys to roll over to Tuesday to see what happens, because this is his deadline again. Is he gonna taco on this again? I don't think anything's
gonna happen.
No, I doubt as well.
I think it's gonna be Taco Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen. I don't know that they're going to do anything. I think that that he has put himself in an impossible. He's done this. He's put himself in an impossible position. I did a video today saying, like, yeah, if you want to get out of this, you need to throw Israel under the bus. That would be his only out. Would be throwing Israel into the bus and saying, I got a whole bunch of bad intel, and we acted on it, and now we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And throw Netanyahu under the bus. But I don't see that happening. I just don't. I think that I think he's delusional, as with a lot of these people. I think that senility is probably kicking in.
Yep.
And you have and psychopathy. I think because again, this is that same kind of thing. This is that very privileged upbringing CEO conversation that we were just having about this disconnect with everybody else in the world. It's like that. There is no support for any of this. The average American is not benefited by any of this. None of this. This doesn't do anything for Americans. This is an Israel thing. This has nothing to do with us.
They've been asking for this for 40 years. 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, this is not new. And it's like, now I guess you found somebody who wants to do it, but it's like, okay, you can do that, but nobody is benefited by this, and you're just going to spend a bunch of money that we don't have, create more debt. I guess he's asking for $7 trillion more dollars on top of the $39 trillion in debt, the U.S. And counting. By the time he leaves, I wouldn't be surprised if the U.S. debt is like $55 trillion. It wouldn't surprise me if it was that high.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's no way to ever pay any of this. And despite what the economists, the fake economists, all say, well, it's never supposed to be paid. You just pay interest on it. Yeah, that kind of goes against the whole "fuck you" discussion we were just having.
Yeah.
That means that you're effectively, what you've said is the American population now has to be slaves in perpetuity.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that.
If you're the bank's favorite customer, you need to look at some things and you need to adjust. You need to change.
Yeah, and this is it. this is that's the other part of that conversation too, by the way, in that Goodman speech, what he's talking about. He's like, he says the United States of America is based on fuck you.
Yeah.
Like that was the original position, was, hey, we don't want any part of, your empire. We don't want any part of your bullshit. We want to do our own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. And yeah, that's pretty well gone now.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
No,
it's not good, because if the states got that back, it would inspire a lot of other countries to take it back. It absolutely would. It 100% would.
Yeah.
It would spread very quickly to a lot of other countries. And it's especially with the days of the internet, where you're not having to wait for, word of what's going on in the States to come to your country 2 years later. Like, it's real time.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like, it's been interesting, just like on Twitter with the Japan, Japanese Twitter, which is hysterical. That is probably some of the best comedy I think I've read in a while, actually. Just some of these tweets from people in Japan back and forth with Americans. Like, some of that stuff is really funny.
Yeah. I had no idea they had Antifa in Japan.
That's a weird thing to me. Yeah. I didn't either. I mean, like, it's got to be a pretty small fringe group of people. It's got to be like a fringe group within a fringe group. I didn't know they had Japanese goth girls. I went down that rabbit hole for like probably too long. Probably way too long. But I'm like, wow, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I mean, my God. And it's been funny reading some of this stuff, and again, from the Japanese people, like, there was the comments of like, oh, we thought that Americans hated Japanese. Like, no, that's not the case, dude.
Yeah.
Americans love the Japanese. They like, dude, they like, you have kids that have anime shit all over their freaking house, man. And there's a huge amount of interesting culture sharing there that I always thought was funny. It's like the two of my favorite episodes are that the one that I still remember. Two of my favorite episodes, but among them is the Simpsons going to Australia, which is still one of my favorite. I mean, that's still just an iconic episode. It's just,
give him the boot.
Oh my God, that's some funny shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's funny. Just everything about that is hilarious. The commentary on the bullfrog, that gets loose in their ecosystems. I was like, yeah, dude, that's Australia. Yep. That's pretty accurate.
I loved ask the Prime Minister. He's on a tire in the dam. So good.
He's out in an inner tube, and he in a little pond in his property. Like, that's actually really funny.
Yeah.
That I wish we had that for real. Rather than the bullshit people that we have now. I mean, like, I actually wish that, like, society had someone like that was just a bit laid back and was more interested in, like, living his own life than trying to rule yours.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's some funny shit. That one, and then the other one was the Simpsons going to Japan. All of the really hilarious humor with Japan. One of my favorite lines, I still love it even to this day, is the game show. Is like, American game shows reward knowledge. We punish ignorance.
Yeah.
Like, that's funny shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's funny.
Yeah. True, culturally as well. I mean, I think it's, yeah. I've wanted to go to Japan for a long time, and then I saw an article that said that their porn industry is dying because they've got like 20,000 women and only 70 men. Now I really want to go to Japan.
I saw that. That was some funny shit.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, what the hell, man? I guess there's worse problems to have, I suppose. I mean, I think that's just. But you're right. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That you have this issue in Japan, so their industry is dying. And no, there was I saw some of the really cool pictures of the cherry blossoms, because the blossoms they're coming into they're blooming now, which is really pretty.
Mm.
And so you see a lot of this stuff, and it's like, yeah, I mean, what an interesting country. I keep seeing this thing where they're like, let's make Japan the 51st state, and of course my thought is that defeats the purpose of Japan.
Yeah.
That would totally defeat the purpose of that. That's You don't marry all your friends.
Mm.
Right? I mean, like, no, you might marry one of your friends, but you don't marry all of your buddies.
Yeah.
Like, no, they're independent. They're your friend. You can, there you go. You don't need to make them a state, dude.
Yeah.
It's not their own country. And the gun issue's been pretty funny. Reading some of that, the Japanese people, they're asking about, like, well, so do Americans have guns? Like, dude, we have guns everywhere.
Mm.
Fuck, there's guns all over the place. This is like for example, in Texas, it's not a matter of do you have a gun? It's how many guns do you have on you at the time? And they're fascinated by that too. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, and it's like, even if like, they're concerned about it, but it's like, dude, I don't know that you could probably make every gun in the world legal in Japan, and it would still be Japan. I don't know that anybody would go on a crazy shooting. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
I think if anything did happen, it would be one of the Muslims they imported.
Yeah.
Or one of the religion of peace or something like that. That's what would be your problem. It wouldn't be, somebody in Japan deciding to go on a shooting spree. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
As I understand, sadly, that when they get depressed, they have a whole forest designed for it. So, it is what it is. I'm not judging it or anything. I'm just saying it's a sad thing.
Yeah.
But it does exist. And
yeah. So has anything changed in your thinking recently with recent events, or are you finding you're more certain of your position?
Well, in what regard? I mean,
well, with the financial your take on the finance world and how everything's working. Has anything kind of unsettled you, or
in the world of finance? Not really. Most everything is pretty predictable right now. I don't know that I don't see things getting a whole lot better for people. Not the direction we're headed.
Yeah.
Anyway, because what we're headed for is sort of like a stagflation kind of thing, which is prices increasing, but wages going down in so many cases.
Yeah.
Or if wages do go up a tiny bit, let's say they go up 4%, but if your inflation is 24%, it's not anywhere even. So it's like you have the same effective problem.
Yeah.
Where your wages are so out of step with the real economy that there's just no way to there's no way to do anything. And people start going backward. We're seeing that, like, record numbers now, I think, are taking money out of their 401ks.
Yeah.
To pay bills. They're not doing it to go on exotic vacations. They're not doing it because they're building a house. They're not doing it because of something like that. No, they're doing it to pay their basic monthly fucking bills because they can't survive. It's what I explained to a couple of Bitcoin bros. I explained that this is one of the problems that Bitcoin is going to have going forward, is that, yeah, you have guys like Michael Saylor, whales that are leveraging other assets to buy Bitcoin. Yeah, sure. But you have regular people are going to have to, many of them will begin to offset their positions. They'll start selling their Bitcoin for dollars to pay bills, because all these companies, they want dollars. And even if you can pay them in Bitcoin, the problem is there's no circulation. It's a one-way transaction. They're going to pay their employees in worthless dollars.
Yeah.
This is that Cantillon effect. And so you're going to end up having this is just going to continue to get worse until I think what either has to happen is a massive revolution of the mind, meaning that, like, enough Americans have an aha moment.
Yeah.
Where they and this would be, I would say that this is true for Western civilization. So not just the U.S., but
Mhm.
this would apply to Australia. This would apply to Britain. This would apply to, like your Western, all of your Western cultures, where they have this aha moment and go, hold on, this isn't going to work, and this has to change by any means necessary. Meaning that, like, if it's going to be a violent change, then it's going to be a violent change, because at a certain point, because uh, people are going to know that this can't continue,
Mm.
and it can't. None of this is sustainable. None of any of this bullshit is sustainable, and more people are starting to, I think, get that inkling of like, yeah, this can't go on. So, I mean, not to be just nothing but a downer on it, but it's like it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I mean, yeah, we need to change a few things, and if you make a peaceful revolution impossible, you make a violent revolution inevitable. By the way, that's not me. That's John F. Kennedy. So,
Yeah.
but he's right about that, and that's a very true statement.
Mm.
So, and I don't see anybody allowing a peaceful revolution. I don't see anybody allowing that.
No.
If they were trying to allow it, they would be trying to at least understand it. They would be trying to say, okay, what, how can we make something work that maybe we can make a few concessions here and there, but nobody wants to concede anything.
Mm.
None of the people who have made a bunch of fake money, your fake billionaires, your boomers who've got these $2 million houses that it's not a $2 million house. It's a $140,000 house that has been artificially pushed into this ridiculous number that no one will ever pay for it.
Yeah.
No one is going to pay that number. But you saw $2 million 2 years ago, and so therefore now it's that psychological thing
Mm-hmm.
that happens, and everybody does this to a certain extent. The same is true with like pricing. Long time ago, a friend of mine told me this. This is a very astute observation. He was using Walmart as a good example. Walmart has those end caps. So you have the aisles, and then they have the end cap, where they'll put some kind of product for sale, and you see on an end cap will be something absurd like microwave oven, $8, and you're like, that cannot possibly be correct. But it isn't what you would want to buy. It's too small, you can't really use it, but it's $8, and you're like, what the fuck? So you walk down the aisle where you see all the brand names and all the other microwaves, but because you saw a price of $8, you assume that those are all the best price that they could ever be. Your mind does this little trick where you just assume that, well, if they're selling microwave ovens for $8, then clearly this Sony microwave oven, for example, that's $250. This has to be the lowest possible price, even though it may not be.
Yeah.
It may be 40% higher than when you could get it someplace else.
Yeah.
But because you saw that, there's this perception as reality kind of thing that happens, which is a really astute observation that he made. And this is the same kind of thing that I think has happened to a lot of boomers with their houses. They saw somebody sold a house 2 blocks over for $2 million.
Yeah.
Somebody paid this absurd, stupid price, probably a hedge fund or something like that. And now everybody there believes falsely that their house is worth that.
Yeah.
Somebody, and I said this before myself, but somebody posted this, and I thought this was another thing that was a brilliant post. But they pointed this out, that it's like, if you couldn't afford to buy the house you're in right now, then that means that house didn't go up that much. So in other words, if you bought the house for $250,000 back, I don't know, 5 years ago, and you're claiming that house is worth $800,000 now, and you ask yourself the question, cool, could you afford to buy it for $800,000 right now? Well, no. Okay, then it's not worth that.
Yeah.
You're delusional because you're assuming that everybody else for some reason has more money. And they don't. The numbers haven't changed. It's right around about $80,000 a year is the median household income. So, eliminating the extreme highs, extreme lows, we get the median, And then, but as a median, you still have people that are under that,
Mm.
and it's a good chunk. It's about half. So, yeah, I mean, if you couldn't afford this house at what what you're claiming you want it now, how could you expect somebody else in the same position?
Yeah.
You can't. So, I don't know that they're going to want to give up this illusion of wealth. I can't remember who it was. It was one of the U.S. founders. It was Franklin or something like that. I think it was Franklin who said that, referring to the collapse of the continental dollar, which happened back in 1780. Someone's gonna correct me on that. Somewhere around, somewhere before 1791.
Okay.
Continental dollar collapsed, and that was what was pointed out, was like what's disappearing isn't wealth. What's disappearing is the illusion of wealth. That people thought they were richer than they really were. That in reality, most people don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, and that's really kind of the truth.
Mm.
When you really break it down to it, it doesn't mean that the assets aren't there. The question is, do you really own those assets, or does a bank own it? Do you own your car, or does the bank own it?
Yeah.
Do you own your house, or does the bank own it? And if you go around and you talk to enough people, most people are going to say, yeah, it's the bank owns all this shit. Yeah. So that's a type of poverty. It's the worst kind of poverty because it's dishonest.
Yep.
You don't even know you're in poverty. It's sliding into a warm bath and slitting your wrists. You don't even know you're dying.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even know you're bleeding out, and that's the reality there. So,
I saw I've watched this happen. I had a friend. There's a suburb that it's kind of near me. It's called Berwick, and my friend lived there for a while. And one day they just sent him out a letter saying your rent's going up by $50 a week, and this was like, so it's like $200 a month. It's a big hike.
Yeah.
And so I started looking into how this was. I was going, that cannot be possible. How are they doing that? And we started looking into it. They had a whole lot of empty houses that they were not renting out. Because the price of rent is done on the averaging and the mean of the area. Mm-hmm. The real estate agents, and because they're making a percentage on all of those, so they had less rentals, so they were making less money. Mm. They went in and they just raised the rental prices on all of their empty houses that they couldn't rent out, because they were like, we're not renting these anyway, so let's raise the rental price on these, and that's going to raise the rental price on the places we are renting. We can justify raising the rentals on them. So they're making their money again. They think that's all good. Mm-hmm. Now, Berwick is in this massive hole and this was traditionally a suburb where families went to, and people mm-hmm. bought houses there. They were a good investment because you knew families would always want somewhere to live. They now can't sell them. It is now a black hole for real estate, and it's one of the better suburbs in this city.
This is a huge problem. So if you look at taking immigration aside for just a moment here, the birth rates, which is something I've talked about quite a bit. I know that even Elon Musk talks about birth. He talks about birth rates for his own reasons. But like the numbers are pretty clear. If you had the baby boomers, so-called, because it was a boom, it was an anomaly to have your infant mortality rate drop precipitously and your amount of live births increase precipitously at the same time, which is what happened. And so you have this enormous wave of people moving their way through the economy. But they didn't have 6 kids each. They might have had like 2 or 3. And then Gen X, which is me, didn't have 6 kids. dude, I can't even imagine how much that would cost.
Mm.
I mean, like, dude, I mean, like only Elon Musk can pull shit like that off. There's, you know, I mean, you know, him and the 35 baby mamas or whatever the hell he's got nowadays. I'm not even picking on the guy. I'm just saying, like, I mean, like, that's the level of money you kind of almost need at this point.
Mm.
And then you have this slow, steady decline of birth rates, and there isn't enough people on the back end of that to buy up all these assets. So yeah, you're going to have a bunch of empty stuff. Now, that wouldn't be a problem if we had an globally speaking, because this sounds like this is happening in Australia as well, but it's definitely happening in the States, where they just won't let prices drop because so much money has been borrowed against these assets. And banks have written these assets down. You know, they lent into all of this. So if you've lent out trillions of dollars on houses across the country, and the average is $500,000 for the house, you can't very well have those assets dropping to 200K, can you? Because now your balance sheet is going to show this massive black hole of where the hell did all that money go? Traditional banking, so back-end banking. Now, I don't know if they do this any longer. They may not. It's probably all selective enforcement bullshit. But traditional back-end banking, the principals of the bank, that would be the principal investors. So let's say I get, you know, me and 10 other friends together and we start a bank. If your balance sheet drops precipitously, the principals have to come out of pocket to shore up those numbers. Now, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It's still 9-to-1. In some cases, 20-to-1. You can get away with that. But you still have to have a ratio. Now, they may have gotten rid of that now. They probably don't give a shit about anything. And now they do whatever the hell they want. But there used to be a ratio. So if you had, let's say you had a, you know, I don't know, let's say you had a half a $1 trillion of assets on your books. You're a big bank and you've got a $500 billion worth of assets. And it's all mortgages, let's say, or a good chunk of it is mortgages. And now all those assets that you've lent against really only show, you know, worth 200 billion. So you're nowhere near a $500 billion. You have a $300 billion deficit. Well, even at a 9 or 10-to-1 ratio, that still means you need to come out of pocket $30 billion. So the principals of that bank now have to figure out where the hell they're going to get that money from to cover that spread. And usually what it means is sell stock. Okay, well, that's fine. You can do that, but then you have to make sure that the people want to buy the stock. And if insiders or people who analyze your books see that you have this massive amount of assets dropping, along with, you know, well, now you have a problem of trying to get people to buy your stock, this is where liquidity injections come from. This is why they say the Fed is going to inject more liquidity. That's money printing. That's just code for counterfeiting. That's all that is.
Yeah.
And it's to try and prop these numbers up to keep it to where it looks like, oh, things are going well. And in reality, they're not. They're not going well. At least they're not going well for those people. They should be losing money. In other words, all this stuff, all these ridiculous house values and so on, all this fake stuff, this should be dropping. So Trump in the U.S. about 2 months ago was doing some press conference, and he was talking about how he didn't want prices for housing to come down because he felt that the people who, you know, they feel as though their house is worth a lot of money now, so they feel good, they feel positive, and so they don't want to have price of housing dropping. The problem with this mentality is that it let's say that you're in the cold and you're freezing, you're like super cold, and you're huddled, and you're like, oh my God, how do I warm up? Well, okay, you could pee your pants. Okay, and you'll feel great, you know, for about 5 minutes. You'll feel nice and warm. But long term, now you're going to die of hypothermia. Now you're in a worse position after that. And that's what's happened here, is that this idea of just keep pumping this up, and with the theory being that somehow you're going to grow your way out of it. And I've covered this on many occasions to the point where I kind of make myself sick talking about it, but I will bring it up. There's only one way to grow an economy, and that's it. There's one way. There's only one way, and that is add people. That's it. An economy is just you could sub the word people in it.
Okay.
An economy is just people.
Yep.
So a market is just people. That's it. It's an economy is people engaged in commerce. That's all it really is.
Yep.
When you break it down to its final analysis. And so to grow the economy, you have to add people. Now, there's a bunch of folks that will immediately go into comment sections and they'll start screaming about how, well, no, we can be more efficient, et cetera, et cetera. That's efficiency, yes, and that helps. That helps with your pricing. It helps with your efficiency, but it doesn't really mean that you're going to sell more of something, right? In other words, I could be really, 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 really efficient at manufacturing a couch. Let's say that I've got it down to where it only takes me 2 hours to manufacture an entire couch from start to finish, which would be like breakneck speed for one person to do that. But let's say I could pull it off. It doesn't mean that I'm going to need to be able to sell more because of that, right? It doesn't. It just means that I'm more efficient, and yeah, maybe my company might be able to sell more of my product because I'm a little faster than somebody else. But in the macro sense, the demand is still what it is, because you don't have enough, because the number of people playing the game isn't increasing. And in fact, right now we have the opposite effect. We have the number decreasing. So this is all very predictable stuff.
Yeah.
What we're seeing, but the way to handle it would be to have, in 2008, going back to The Big Short, would have been to not bail any of that out at all and let all of that go away back then. Because if it went away back then, boomers at the time would have been in their late 40s, maybe late 50s, depending on when they were born. In other words, they wouldn't be in their 70s and 80s now. They would be in their late 40s and 50s, which would mean that they would have time to correct out of that over the last 20 years. They didn't allow that. So now you have this huge problem of a bunch of people that are going to be out of money and out of time. It's the worst possible scenario that they could be in. And it's all because, well, you're trying to prop up a corpse that is now bloated and decomposing. There's not a whole lot left to really prop up at this weekend at Bernie's kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's just no, at a certain point you can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of happening here. And so if anybody wanted to, what would be the solution now that we're already here? Because we could say if then, that doesn't do anything for us. But if we talk about right now, what could be done right now would be to let this correct, and let these banks go bankrupt. Let all these assets correct. Let all these assets just I get it that there's some boomer out there that believes he's rich falsely because his house he thinks is worth $600,000, $800,000, $2 million or some bullshit like that. But it's really not. And the market, which is the people, have to they need to be able to buy this kind of stuff. And if wages haven't kept up with any of this, then all these prices have to start coming down. It's either that or you've cleared all the debt. I've been a fan of that. I've actually been trying to I've pushed that agenda myself, just pointing out well, why don't you just send every American $10 million? Just send everybody just print quintillions of dollars and send everybody $10 million. And then they can wipe out all the debt from the bottom up. And then, the banks are full of a bunch of useless paper that nobody gives a shit about. But who gives a shit about that? It's over with.
Yeah.
And then all the debt goes away. And then it doesn't make any difference what something goes for. But then that would mean that all the power goes away too. All the debt goes away. All of the, all that stuff ends up going away.
Yeah.
And you have to start over. And that would be it would probably be the cleanest approach, in my opinion. And it's not the only way to do it. I mean, there's other ways to go about this too. You could also just let the markets collapse and let the chips fall where they may, which is what they're. I mean, like what they're trying to not have happen. And this is my suspicion, is that when the Soviet Union collapsed, and there's a lot can be learned about the Soviet just by watching the Soviet Union, what happened. There's a ton that can be learned from that. When it collapsed, they sent out vouchers to everybody. All of the Russian citizens, they all got these little vouchers for whatever. I don't remember what the number was, but it was supposed to be that you used these things to buy stuff. And because nobody owned anything, right? I mean, it was all state owned. It's all state property. And so what the smart people who did the guys who knew how to run businesses, the guys who understood stuff, the guys who actually did, a lot of the guys who ran like illegal businesses on the side, so that therefore they understood business. They went around and would get as many of these vouchers as they could, and they gobbled them all up so that they could then buy the real assets of the country, like the oil wells, the manufacturing facilities, on and on and on. They bought the real assets with that, and those are what we know them today as the Russian oligarchs. Because that's what they did. They knew what they were doing. They purchased assets. Well, it's what they're trying to do now is to keep something like that from happening. They don't want average plebs buying up assets, especially productive assets like farm, agriculture, land, oil wells, things like that. Oil drilling equipment. All of that equipment. There's just endless acres upon acres upon acres upon acres, millions of acres of equipment everywhere. When you stack it all up together, if you were to put it all in like an area to auction it all off, there would be just enormous. You could pick up stuff for almost nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what you actually want, is because then your domestic population goes back to work, and then the market adjusts. The prices adjust. Everything just starts adjusting to where it should function, to where it should sit. But that doesn't keep those people in power anymore.
Yeah.
They're trying to protect that. They don't want that to happen. And it's painfully obvious to me that that's what all this is about. It's just about trying to protect their positions and where they are in the hierarchy, because they rich people don't like being poor.
No.
And they certainly don't like being reminded that they're completely worthless too.
Yeah.
On top of that, because it's like many of them, they'll never go out there and run an excavator and dig their own trenches to put in electric lines. So they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. It's my time is worth more. It's really not. It's really not worth more. That's not how time on this planet works. But whatever. I mean, you can believe whatever you want falsely.
Yeah.
And that isn't a socialist idea. That's a physics idea. That's got nothing to do with socialism.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah. So until some of that reality hits, and I don't know that it's going to. At least I'm a bit of a pessimist, unfortunately. I just don't know that it's going to hit in time. I think that by the time people figure out what happens, it'll probably be too late to correct out of some of this stuff, unless there is some kind of a catalyzing event, something that hits hard enough, and that there's enough window of opportunity that people are able to seize it and go, okay, that's it. We're, now we can fix things.
Yeah. Yeah. I have thought about that as well, that there needs to be some of it. We're often controlled by those events. We're pushed into what they want. We need an event, and I don't have any idea how this would happen, but an event that pushes things the other way. But there's several indicators. On a previous episode we did, you told me about the Waffle House Index, which I found fascinating.
That's right, the Waffle House Index.
Well, now I've heard about the Pizza Index, and even there's another one, the Gay Bar Index. Because,
all right, now that's a new one on me. You're gonna have to explain that one.
Well, it wasn't actually presented as an index, but it was simply that the Pizza Index near military bases, suddenly pizzas went
Oh,
off the charts. So they're like,
right.
"Oh, we're going to war." And
Right. Okay.
they
Yeah.
also said, "And all the gay bars are empty," which I thought is a hilarious index. But a couple
the
of things,
bar index. That's
yeah.
funny, actually.
But a couple of things I've noticed that for quite a while now, it's just been every time I go out, it's like, okay, I'm just reminded that we're in for hard times because around here locally, and this is everywhere in Melbourne, every suburb has these now. There are like these Thai massage places where they're rub and tugs.
They're all over the place up here. Yeah.
So Weimar, they did this. When things are getting bad economically, they make sex easily available. The other thing is these places that sell... the Australian government, they're always talking about, the illegal tobacco trade, because for Americans that don't know, we pay more for tobacco than anyone else in the world. We are so hyper taxed, and the tax goes up every 6 months. I buy 30 grams of tobacco, it costs me $110 currently. People think it's a joke. They come to our country and they're like, are you kidding me? Yeah, weed is cheaper. It is legit. Yeah. Yeah. So there's this huge illegal tobacco industry happening.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah, exactly. So you can buy a pack of cigarettes for like $15, $20. Right. So people are buying that. The point is, though, tobacconists that only sell illegal products are open everywhere. I've got one nearby that opens from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. in my little suburb. No one's out at that time of night. The other thing that they sell, though, is various edge of legal drugs like nitrous oxide and all this. So they're making all that available as well.
Okay.
The other thing, in preparing for this episode, I kind of had this idea. I was like, perhaps I'll try and push back a little bit on this, and I'll present the counter and whatnot. I can't.
Okay.
I can't. I simply can't. The more I researched, I was like, I can't do it. But I came across, I had no idea. The America, I don't know what it is in Australia, but America has set their reserve rate to 0. So it used to be 10%, where if someone put in $100, they could create $90.
Right.
Now the reserve's at 0. So if someone puts in $100, they create $100, and then from that it's another 100. So it is exactly as you say. It is infinite.
And that's what I was talking about.
Yeah,
that's what I was talking about. Is that now they just kind of do whatever they want.
Yeah.
It's just pure counterfeiting. It's just whatever they can conjure and make it kind of look good on paper, and that's about the end of it. And it's destructive and it's demoralizing, because nobody knows what none of the math makes any sense now. So nobody knows how much money they need to make for anything.
It reminds me of Mad Max in I call it Furry Road. It's Fury Road, but I call it Furry Road because it's funnier. But the thing, he's in this tower and he's got all this water, and all the people are dying of thirst. And he releases some water and he's telling them, do not imbibe too much of this water. You will become dependent on water. It's just, this is how it's done. That's power from the beginning of time, I guess.
Yeah, there's always, there's a King of the Hill episode, which I don't know if you have King of the Hill in Australia, but it's okay. There's an old episode where Bill, right, the bald guy, he gets put in charge of a storm shelter of people. So the townspeople are all in this massive storm shelter, and he finds himself being, basically, because he is active, or I think he's active duty, army or something like that. He finds himself put in charge of this storm shelter full of people. And he's incompetent, but he's in charge. And he starts to like that people go to him for questions and like being in charge. But he's incompetent. So and he ends up liking being in charge so much that he keeps everybody in the storm shelter pretending that there's still a huge storm going, even though the storm is like long gone. It's long over with, and it's time to leave and go back to real life.
Mm.
But he keeps not telling people, oh, it's still horrible out there. And there's a psychology there, because yeah, some people get really addicted to that.
Mm.
They get addicted to that kind of thing. It is a strange thing, because so I try to put myself in that frame of mind, that headspace, and I can't do it, because to me that is I can think of no worse form of hell than somebody coming to me asking me for permission for every goddamn little thing, and like that would absolutely drive me fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That would drive me absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like, no, I want you, like, you need to think, you need to, like, like, dude, I mean, that's just a weird thing to me.
Yeah.
But some people get addicted to that. They get this addiction, and it's always, it really tends to be the least competent and most ridiculous people get into these positions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the Karens of the HOAs, for example. I mean, like, the apex of this right now is the Trump situation.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a more, I can't think of a better metaphor. I mean, oh my God, for this. This is so ridiculous. It's a goddamn clown show.
Mm.
And when it should be going the other direction.
Yeah.
You really need to go the other direction. You really need to decentralize more. You really need to get people to, like, dude, no. They need to think, and they need to be able to lose.
Yeah.
And again, this is especially true, just again, going back to what I was saying, it's like, especially with all these fake billionaires and the boomers, and we're like, yeah, they're going to have to actually have you don't benefit people by isolating them from the truth, from reality. You can, yeah, it may benefit them for a little while, to feed your ego or whatever it is, while you're in the so-called storm shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But you're not helping them. You're just making it worse.
Mm.
And you're making them more dependent. What you're doing is actually very destructive and demoralizing.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep seeing. And so, yeah, it really is one of those things, and it's just ridiculous to watch it.
Yeah. Well, they did it during COVID or Convid, where they gave people, and this was very much a Soviet and a thing where you are reporting on your neighbors. So they gave people the power to say, no, it was like this citizen army, and it was all the volunteers who were the worst people, the people who embraced that power and were running around like, why aren't you wearing a mask? Cover your nose. And the rest of us were just going, well, just, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's the problem with that, is that goes back to the very first thing I was talking about way back when, which is like, is there anything you won't do for money or power? I put them in the same category.
Yeah.
Is there anything you won't do? Do you have any limits at all? Because if your answer is you don't have any limits at all, I don't even want to be around you.
Yeah.
Because I can't trust you with anything now. You're telling me that the only thing I can trust you on is that your word is as good as the money that flows to you, and that's it.
Yeah.
You are only as good as somebody that is paying you, and that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not dealing with a real person. I'm dealing with an NPC that is basically just a money junkie.
Yeah.
Like, that's, in other words, I'm dealing with a drug, not a person.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with a junkie, not a person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I look at it. Like, there's no core to you at all.
Mm.
You're just after this. Like, okay, that's fine. Again, you can do that, but then I'm not gonna be able to process that. And I think that it becomes, I think other people pick up on that, And so, yeah, the people that are like you will be your circle of friends that'll work. But that's the same problem. As soon as as soon as the as soon as the chips are down, yeah, they're going to cannibalize you.
Yeah,
If they get an opportunity, they're going to. Why wouldn't
absolutely.
they? That's the problem. That's why it's why one of the reasons why having a culture is so important. And I think that's where a lot of the culture war stuff comes from. You know, your Nick Fuentes's,
Yeah.
Fuenti, whatever the plural is for,
Fuenti.
you know, of the world where they talk about this culture war thing. I'm not picking on the guy. I'm pointing out, like,
Yeah.
and I'm not even saying I agree with him on everything, because I don't. But I'm pointing out that, like, the whole idea of the culture war, like, that's where a lot of this is fueling all of this.
Yeah.
And it's because in my opinion, from my observation, not many people are willing to break it down to that, to that element, and say, okay, cops, for example, are you going to keep enforcing, like, for example, all the convid shit that we saw in, like, Australia was particularly bad.
It was.
And it's like, are you going to keep doing this? Because if you're going to keep doing this kind of thing just for the money, then, dude, like, how in the world can we trust you with absolutely anything? You can't. You're just there for the money. Then what good is having the civilization? What good's the culture?
Yeah. Well,
because if all your culture is just a money culture, well, then fuck it. I mean,
no, that was the thing that was so incredibly disappointing to me with the whole COVID thing. I just kept thinking, now people won't take this, and they did. And the more these little rules and regulations that they put in benefited them in some minute way that had no basis in reality, but they would just grasp at it, and they would hang on to this. And I couldn't understand whether it was out of fear or it was just this ego thing. And I think people do get very addicted to their egos. I can understand drug addiction because it creates a physical need. Like that drug, the more you take the drug, the more you now have a physical need for that drug. And so you enter a level of desperation where you can't help yourself. Right. But when it's ego, when it's just purely this, like, no, I need the power. I know what's right. And I can't relate to it. I can't understand it at all.
Yeah. It's a, I don't know if it's a character flaw. I don't know if it's learned behavior. I don't know if it's, I don't know what causes it. I don't know that there's really any, I don't know that I would really have anything really productive to say on the matter, because I see it. I see it myself. I've watched it myself. I've seen people go through this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And all I can think of is usually when I see stuff like that is, how can I get away from this? How do I get away from this? Because this isn't any fun.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to be around someone like that. Because this is someone that, again, is going to just be a net negative to my life. You know, all I'm going to do is just be messing with this. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what causes it. You know, it'd be interesting to hear, someone like a Jordan Peterson's thoughts on it. Again, not that I agree disagree with everything on Peterson, but I mean, I do think that he is a smart guy, and I do think that was his profession for a long time. And so it would be interesting to hear his thoughts on something like that.
Yeah.
As to what does cause something like this. That is bizarre. To me, that is bizarre, repugnant behavior. And that I would do everything I could to try and avoid being around someone like that. So I'm very cautious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Whenever someone asks me for advice or something, I'm really cautious. I really try I try to be as delicate with that as possible, like super delicate with advice. And I usually couch it in something to the effect of, well, if it's me, here's what I might do. But I'm not telling you to do this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what I'm going to, and I also don't know what the circumstances that person has. Everybody's circumstances are a little different, and people are dealing with their demons. I mean, that's true for everybody. That's true for absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody's better or worse than anybody. They're all part of the same compost heap, all that kind of shit. I mean, I get it. But yeah, I don't know what causes people to think like that. It is a weird thing.
It is a massive driver in people wanting to get away and form their own communities. And I think that is possibly one of the outcomes. You know, perhaps people will start to do that.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think that's going to happen. It's happening with us, or we're moving to. I mean, with our neighbors, we are working pretty closely with our neighbors, and I do think that more and more people will try and do things like that as time goes on, if they can, assuming they can afford to pull it off. That's the other part too. Assuming they can actually do it, you know, and that they can afford, you know, they can afford the ability to get out of it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, so assuming they could actually afford to do something like that, I think that there's going to be more people who probably do it. But
that is one of the toughest situations to be in, to be around people you do not want to be around, but you cannot escape.
Yeah, it's it's true, and I think that's true for most people. I would say I think most people probably feel the same way.
All right, well we've been going quite a while now, so let's wrap it up there. What is it now? It's nearly midnight
it's, I don't know what time it is here now. Hold on. 10:30.
Oh, that's not too bad. Okay.
No. I'm usually up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning or so anyway, instead of just doing my own thing.
Oh, cool.
You know, I got all kinds of crap to do here. So, well, what other stuff are they selling? You know, these quasi-legal drugs anyway, out of curiosity. What other, like, no, don't get me wrong. You know, like nitrous that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah,
I would think that'd be hilarious. I got to do it one of these days. I keep forgetting to. I always forget about it. I'm like, no, I need to put that on my list. But
I always, the thing about it is all things in moderation, you know, because it used to be
right.
Well, it used to be the whipped cream cans, and you would whippets,
yeah.
Right? So you would hit the whippet, and you'd have a laugh and all that kind of stuff, and that was fine. Now they are just, and the crazy thing is, they outlawed whipped cream cans that had the nitrous in them, like they made them illegal.
Of course they did.
Right?
We can't have people having fun.
No.
Oh, God.
But so now they're openly selling cans of nitrous, so you can just hit the nitrous straight. A friend of mine got into them. He said it's like doing cocaine.
That would be fun. I'm going to have to actually look that up now.
Yeah, I mean, I might have to give it a try.
Nitrous is legal in the States. There's no law against it.
Right.
It's basically an inert gas. I mean, it's not really, you know.
Well,
like,
the problem is the health side effects that can happen. Like he told me some of the side effects that you get from these things, and it is insane. Like for one, it's very addictive. Like you just
really, nitrous, really.
I know it seems you wouldn't think it is, but apparently, you know, you'll come off it and you'll just be like, no, I just want to get back to that space. I actually did quite a bit of research many years ago, and I've kind of forgotten about this, but I bought a book about nitrous oxide and the history of it. And they used to have these nitrous oxide theaters where people would load up on nitrous oxide. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can just imagine this.
You would think the audience would be on the nitrous because they'd all be laughing, but they would someone would load up and they'd come out and stumble around on stage and people would just laugh at them because it was like, hey, check this guy out, you know.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was just thinking the other way around. Like, what if you had an audience that was all on nitrous?
That's what,
you could be the best comedian in the world.
Yeah.
You could go say virtually anything.
Yeah. That's the thing.
That would be really funny, actually.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I always thought, why can't we just pump some nitrous oxide into the club? Everyone's going to have a ball. People will be coming back in droves.
Oh, my God. I can only imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. It would be incredible.
It sounds like that would be absolutely the funniest thing probably ever. That sounds like an experience that if it happened random, like it was just completely, like, let's say that there was a nitrous, I don't know why you would ever have a nitrous leak in a building.
Yeah.
But let's say that you had a giant nitrous leak in a club or something randomly.
Mm.
I mean, that would be an experience you couldn't duplicate.
Yeah.
Because it would be probably the funniest thing probably ever for everybody involved.
Mm.
To have something like that happen. That would be hilarious.
Yeah. The one thing about nitrous I've noticed, it at sort of lower levels, like it's called laughing gas, because at a lower level you laugh, and it's
Right.
but it has an anesthetic effect.
Yeah.
One of, I can't remember what but it causes nerve damage. Like there's
really
all sorts of problems with this. And
it's got to be over prolonged use, I would think.
That's exactly it.
I would think that would be like prolonged use.
But because
like if we were huffing Ace or something like that.
Yeah, but because you're sitting there with a can and you can hit it as much as you want. Like when I had it a while ago, many years ago, because I went to a dentist and he was like a young hip dentist. So he was like, let's give you the nitrous. And each time I would go back, he'd be like, let's give you a bit more nitrous, a bit more. The last time I went, I was just a pool in the chair, just going, oh, I'm not even here.
When I had my wisdom teeth out, this is years ago. This is when I was a kid. When I was like maybe 22 or something like that. And I went into the doctor, to the oral surgeon, and I had never had gas.
Okay.
Like, I'd never had that. So he put the thing over my nose, and he says, I'm gonna go out here, get some stuff done, get everything prepped for all of this. Just breathe deeply, through your nose. And I didn't notice anything at all. Like I noticed nothing. I'm just laying there. I remember being really mellow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really kind of like, I've hit like a level of calm. And then like this guy was just, this is just his personality, I guess. Because then he walked in, and imagine you're in the dentist chair, right? So you're looking up.
Yeah.
Right. So he's looking down at you. So imagine this guy who like leans in like this, and he goes, "How's that gas doing?" And he does it just like that. And I'm like, I remember laughing hysterically at like, oh my God, dude. Like, and I was completely fucked up.
Yeah.
I was super fucked up. And that was when it hit me that I was that messed up.
Yeah.
He cranked the gas up even higher after letting, because I was also the Novocaine too.
Yeah.
My whole face is numb.
Yeah.
And I don't remember anything about that experience. I couldn't tell you what happened. I remember hearing a bunch of cracking and crunching, and about a minute and a half later, it was over with.
Really?
Now it was probably an hour. Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
I couldn't even begin to tell you. Time meant nothing to me at that point. But yeah, that was I guess it's my only experience with nitrous has been in the clinical sense. So,
Wow.
But I didn't know that that there was an addictive property to it. Like, that's actually interesting.
Yeah, apparently.
For prolonged use and everything. But yeah, I would think that ACE, which is 1 part alcohol, 2 parts chloroform, and 3 parts ether.
Okay.
Like, so if you're huffing that, yeah, I mean, that is an anesthetic. That will knock you the fuck. Actually, well, ether is an anesthetic by itself.
Yeah.
You huff that for a while, so if that will knock you the fuck out.
What I was told as well is it creates incredible depression. Like, you do this, you do it, and you do it, and you do it.
Really?
And then you're coming out of it. All you want is to go back to that state, because there is a real draw to the absence of reality.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
That's I think that's a human thing, though.
Absolutely.
I do think that's a human thing. I mean, I do think that there's an old movie. You have to look this up. I think it was from the 90s. It was called Mumford. Mumford. Okay. And there was one of the main character in it is talking about he says, did you know that like virtually every creature on this planet has a way of anesthetizing themselves or finds a way to try and escape reality at some point? Because it's like birds will eat some of those berries, psychedelic type berries and so forth, and get drunk off of them, things like that. And human beings are no different, but it's like that kind of makes sense actually. That that people would want to, they would want to escape for a little while.
Mm.
That seems kind of natural to me.
It
It
is.
doesn't mean, but not, but I think you miss out on, if you do it all the time. I think that it's kind of becomes too much of a good thing, at least to me.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, and I've done plenty of experimentation in my lifetime,
Mm.
but it just seems to me like, that if you do it all the time, that it kind of reduces the fun or the interesting part of it if you do it too much. That's been my experience anyway, just personally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I could not do wake and bake anymore. Like I could not do that.
Yeah.
Not as an adult. I mean, it's one thing when you're like 18,
Yeah.
you can do that for a year or so, but as an adult, like, no, I don't know that I could do that. I think for me, like, I mean, weed for me, maybe once a week or something, possibly,
Mm.
kind of deal. Like, I just have too much other shit to do.
Yeah.
Frankly, I have too much other stuff that I have going on, so it's like I can't be fucked up all the time. I have to be able to actually function and do stuff, and the stuff that I do is actually fun.
Mm.
Some of it, not all of it, but some of it actually is fun.
Yeah.
And so you wouldn't want to be messed up doing something that you like doing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's an interesting. The thing for me was bucket bongs, I think. Do you know what a bucket
I don't
bong
know what
is?
that is. I
Okay.
don't know what that is.
So you get a bucket of water,
Okay.
and you get like say a juice bottle, like a large juice bottle. You cut the bottom off,
Okay.
and
Okay.
in the top, the screw-on
Oh,
lid.
it's like a gravity bong.
Yeah. So you fill it up with
Okay.
water.
Okay. Okay.
You lift up the thing as the water pulls out.
Yeah.
It pulls and you're burning it, and then
Right.
you push the thing down, and it just
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Gravity bong. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was called. But yeah, those. Yeah, that'd be it's a good way to get messed up.
Oh yeah, it's great. It was just too much for me. I got to a point where it's just like I can't do this.
That's what I mean. That's where I got to with weed. For me, this is many years ago, like decades ago for me. But
Yeah.
it's like at a certain point, I just kind of like, this is kind of fun and all, but I just have other stuff that I need to go do,
Yeah.
and it became sort of an occasional kind of thing,
Mm.
and so there's that moderation, right?
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
The all things in moderation, as opposed to doing that every waking moment of the day. But yeah, there is an escape. Some people want to escape all the time. I mean, Portland, Oregon is full of that.
Mm.
We got a bunch of people, that are just constantly trying to escape reality. Well, yeah, but why wouldn't they want to escape? Their reality sucks.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's it.
I agree, and is that the cart before the horse? Is it because their reality sucks, so that's why they're getting high, or are they getting high and that's what causes this? Like, which one is it?
Yeah. Well, that's another one of
know,
those. A slow descent into, or sometimes a very quick descent into chaos and madness, which
Yeah,
inevitable.
yeah. I can certainly see it with some people, though.
Yeah.
But I think that it's good for a number of folks to be able to get, if they know who they are, which is, that's that know thyself kind of thing.
Mm.
If you know that you kind of have an addictive personality, then you probably want to avoid it.
Mm. Yeah. Just before we do wrap up, do you think that the elites trump? I mean, this is what it feels like. Do you think it is at the point where they are saying, "All right, let's just steal everything and get out"? Do you think that's where we're at?
Yeah, I think that's where we're at.
Mm.
I do think we are at the looting. The last official act of any government is to loot the treasury.
Mm.
I do think that, globally speaking, I think that a number of people are losing their grip with reality.
Yep.
And as evidenced by, you've got so many, we have the so-called elites, these oligarchs telling people, don't save, and don't worry about, anything. Just spend your money, have a great time, and don't worry, the robots and AI, this utopia is gonna, like, this is nonsense. That's not how any of this stuff works.
Yeah.
And I really think that what happens is that eventually people begin to completely lose touch with all reality. Those people are dangerous. There is a great video, probably the best I think I've probably ever seen, categorically. It's 20 minutes long, and it's on YouTube, and I think it's called it's by After School, AFTERSKOOL, and it's about how mass psychosis works. So if you type in like After School, AFTERSKOOL, mass psychosis, it'll pop right up. And this illustrated video of what a mass psychosis is so precision accurate to what we're seeing right now.
Really?
And mass psychosis, as they point out, typically starts at the top, at the ruling class, because they lose touch with reality. They never really. You're supposed to have, in chemistry, you have something called reflux, right? Reflux is you have your flask and you have your burner and it's boiling and it goes up your tower and then it cools and then it comes back down. Now we're not talking about taking it and distilling it. We're talking about refluxing it. So it's just going up and down like this, and it cools, turns into condensation, and it goes back down, and then it boils again. And this is called refluxing. And the human beings, in my view, are supposed to be in this reflux thing going on, meaning that you climb your way up, but eventually you have to come back down. Right? This is going back to the drug conversation. I think that what happens that people get depressed is they don't want to come back down, as opposed to like understanding that no, you can go have a good time, but with the understanding that this will end.
Yeah.
It has to end because you have other things to do. You can't be in a state of whatever all the time. So when we look at the way that wealth works, people, it's the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. You can, if you have people going, ascending to the lofty positions of the so-called bullshit elites, and if they stay there long enough, they lose touch with all reality completely. And that's what this talks about with mass psychosis. They completely lose touch with reality. They have no idea. Like I think you have, like when you look at the French Revolution, you have legitimately rich people who were not part of the so-called elite. They were just rich people. They were just living their lives, and they got beheaded because they have no idea what's going on. Yeah, because they completely lost touch with everything going on. They really didn't understand that people were getting very pissed. They were getting very, very angry.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to have, so when you have this idea of a rags to riches story, right? We love those stories where someone starts off at the bottom and they work their way up. We love those stories. But there's the other side of that's called social mobility. We love the idea of social mobility. But the other part of social mobility is the downside. That's the people who start with, that have it all, are supposed to lose it because of their hubris, their stupidity, their whatever the hell is wrong with them.
Yep.
And then what happens is they learn lessons on the way down. And that's really important, because then those people usually teach from position of failure. Teaching from the position of from the point of view of failure is priceless. It's really, really, really valuable information. It's how engineers engineer stuff. You take something, you engineer it, and then you put pressure on it until it breaks, and then it's a data point.
Yeah.
Now you have a data point. So now you do it again, and you change something, and then now you have a data point. And that's really important. It's a really important process to do this kind of stuff. And that's missing right now. There isn't anybody, they're not allowing anybody at the top to fail. And so these people are just losing their grip on reality is getting worse. So in this video we're talking about with mass psychosis, they're talking about, like, this is exactly what happens with these so-called ruling class, with these elites. They get themselves into a position where they start losing all touch with everything to do with reality. They start to believe themselves as gods. In fact, I was joking about this on Twitter. Like, if you saw, you know how you can do, people post the picture of a tweet, the screenshot of a tweet.
Yep.
On like True Social or whatever it is. If you saw somebody post like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this," and it was Trump, a Trump tweet. Let's say I'm going to use him as an example because he's everywhere. That said, listen, this is going to work out for us because I'm just informing you all right now. I am the return of Jesus. I am the Son of God, and I'm here to do all this. Now, here's the thing. How many people would question, did he really tweet that? Because we would believe it.
Yeah.
In other words, not that he's the Son of God. No. But that he's that fucking checked out.
Yeah.
People would go, we need to verify this. Did he actually do this, or is this a joke?
Yeah.
And that was the point I was kind of making, is that, like, we would read that and go, did he really say this? Because we don't, in other words, we wouldn't say, oh, this is such an obvious joke. No, we would go, has he lost his mind? Like, we already know he's losing his mind, but is he this far fucking gone now? Is he about to make the horse the president of the Senate? Right? I mean, is he about to go full fucking Caligula?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? And this is what tends to happen with these people. They lose touch with reality. They believe they're gods. They start thinking with this kind of thing. They start saying crazy shit like, we're going to move people to Mars in 10 years. Planet with no atmosphere. I mean, like, this is the kind of shit that they, and the thing is that people believe them.
Yeah.
They kind of go along with it because it's like, it's the Michael Jackson problem. A long time ago, I did an old video on this where I talked about fucking Michael Jackson, where it's like, Michael Jackson didn't probably have in my opinion, didn't have a lot of good friends around him. He probably did, because a good friend would have said something like, hey, Mike, I realize there's probably, let's say it's totally innocent with you having these 10-year-old kids jumping up and down in your bed, and you're a 35-year-old man, at like 10:30 at night. Maybe it's totally innocent. Maybe there is totally nothing going on. But there's something called optics.
Yeah.
And appropriate behavior. And this isn't optically good. And this really isn't appropriate behavior for an adult. So, I mean, it's one thing if you're in the bouncy castle out in the backyard, at noon on a Sunday with all the kids. Whatever. But, like, this is probably massively inappropriate. That person would probably be fired.
Yeah.
So what happens is that no one ever tells these people the truth. No one ever dares to tell them the truth, because if they tell them the fucking truth, then they could be fired. And a lot of people have their living is tied to this. Elvis Presley had the exact same problem. He had the exact same fucking problem. Nobody wanted to tell him the truth because, like, well, I mean, my God, I mean, we make a lot of money off this fucking guy.
Yeah.
So if I don't want to lose my job, it's like, how do you, again, this is how do you have friends? How do you have anybody tell you any kind of truth? When, going back to what I was talking about before, it's like, well, if you'll do anything for money, including keep your mouth shut, right?
Yeah.
So these people begin to think of themselves as gods. They start thinking that they are like a different species from everybody else. That hubris sets in, metastasizes, and eventually turns into a mass psychosis and starts breaking, and shit just starts breaking down.
Yep.
And that's, in addition to us watching the division of labor breakdown, which is happening because of the competency crisis and all these other things. It's like, this stuff just, it becomes predictable watching this behavior. So yeah, I kind of do agree with that statement. That, yeah, we are kind of watching people just sort of loot everything and do whatever the hell it is that they kind of want to do at that level, because they can get away with it.
Yeah. People are cheering for them doing it.
Yeah, we have a bunch of people that are going along with this, thinking that this is a great idea because somehow they think they're going to benefit from it,
Mm.
or worse, a bunch of people living their lives vicariously, through one of these people. To me, that's even fucking worse
Yeah.
because it tells me that you're not concerned about your own life. You're concerned about watching somebody else have a life, and then you have a fake life in your head watching this.
Mm.
That's really unhealthy.
Yeah.
That's the TV mentality. That's living your life through a character on TV as opposed to not realizing that, like, dude, there's a whole big old world out here that you could be doing shit. There's
Yeah.
a whole bunch of stuff out here that you could be doing, and that you probably should be doing, and improving your existence as a human being as opposed to watching somebody else and then projecting onto them all of this perceived perfection that isn't real.
Mm.
That if you saw them, you probably think that, if you saw who they really were, you'd probably, it's the Sydney Sweeney picture that was just a couple of days ago. She posted a picture of herself with no makeup.
Yep.
And it's like, no, she's pretty regardless, but it's like, no, I mean, she doesn't have that same like icon of it. No, she just looks like a regular pretty girl that would live next door.
Yeah.
I mean, like, whatever. And it's like, yeah, see, that's an illusion that the publicist and the image consultants, they're selling an image.
Yeah.
They're selling that. They're not trying to sell like a real person.
Mm.
The real person, she could be some horrible fucking nightmare crazy woman for all we know. I don't think so, but I mean, like, but what if, right? I mean, you have it's the Britney Spears thing.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the Britney Spears is look now, it's like, oh, dude, holy shit.
Yeah, she's got no one around her telling her, hey, don't post that.
Right, that's what I mean. It's like, this is just kind of how this kind of thing works. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, but it's a great video. If you get an opportunity to watch it, it's like 20 minutes long, but it's absolutely brilliant. It's the best 20 minutes you'll spend on the internet. And it's very productive. And yeah, I mean, they go into this. So these kinds of things happen, and they tend to drag people, large swaths of people with them. They tend to do this. They tend to have this magnetic effect, dragging people with them. And before you know it, when the mass psychosis comes to an end, it usually, then people wonder, how the fuck did this even happen? Yeah, how indeed.
Yeah.
It's because you're not bothering to think this stuff through. You're just going along with all of this as opposed to saying, hold on, I mean, we need to, in other words, I don't care that you're going the direction, but do you know why you're going that direction? Well, no, then stop and maybe rethink it first.
Yeah.
Because, otherwise who knows where the hell you're going with all this madness. So
now
it's something I've always thought about.
Yeah. But on top of this, now we've also got AI psychosis. This is perhaps the world is going to end just in one massive psychotic break, and we'll all just be like, we're winning. This is the greatest thing ever. Bam.
It wouldn't, like, nothing would shock me at this point.
Yeah.
There's that same channel, After School, which is a great channel, had another one where they talked about this box that shows up. It's this the civilization of people that are just living their lives, doing their thing. They hunt, they eat, they do, they're just, and then this magic box shows up, and the one guy goes inside, and it has everything he could ever want. Like, it has entertainment forever. Anything you could ever possibly want to see, it's available.
Yeah. And
easy to get food, easy to get, everything is easy. Everything is super simple. Everything is it's this really slick fast food kind of thing. Everything is all, and it drags him into this world. And they eventually, the denouement is that they eventually realize that you have to be able to live with this and use it accordingly, but not live within that.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot, it's again, it's that same thing. It's that kid, being told by his audience, keep eating this, eat this, eat this, eat this. And he's doing this, and then before you know it, he's 400 pounds, and he's in terrible health because of the type of food, not just the overweight, but because of the type of food he's eating on top of that.
Yeah,
it's the worst possible food. And it's like, yeah, that's what's happened. Is that consumed him instead of just using that as a tool.
Yeah.
I mean, and everybody has their moments of weaknesses where they go onto the internet and become a complete fucking moron like everybody else. Yeah, that's true. But you obviously you don't want to make that your whole existence.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to make that your entire existence. And that's sort of the message of the little animation is trying to get people to understand that, like, yeah, yes, all of that's there. But you can't live in that. You still have to like live in the real world, and then that real world, of course, right now we're watching, is going to shit.
Yeah.
Because so many people are living in this fantasy world.
Yeah.
No different than, again, the whole degree thing, where you've got a bunch of people with degrees and debt and everything else, and they're living in sort of a fantasy world of, I want to get an office job doing some pretend thing. None of that shit existed anyway.
Yeah.
It was fake anyway. The other stuff is the things that the markets actually need, which are real work.
Well, the idea of that box, that seems to be, and they openly talk about this, this is what the elites are working towards. They want to create a next level of reality where they can just go in and be gods, where they can do anything they want.
Yeah, I mean, and they'll probably succeed at it to one degree or another. Now, not probably to the extent that like science fiction authors would write about, but because it's science fiction as I see is always a plot device.
Yeah,
most good science fiction is really more philosophical than it is science fiction. It's science fiction is the plot device to get you to read the story, and for them to be able to tell a story that doesn't involve wizards, because otherwise you get fantasy at that point. So, but that's just it. I do think that they are kind of creating that little world. But it's not the type of world that if if you were to step back and realize it and say, again, go and tend a garden, like a real garden, and go do, instead of doing gardening on Facebook or something, but like an actual garden and just living your life, it's going to move 10 times slower or more. It's going to move much slower.
Yeah.
And you're able to actually, the theory is you'll be able to actually enjoy some kind of real life. The question is, are they going to continue to push that envelope to make it impossible for people to do that?
Yeah.
That's sort of the problem.
Also, they're still going to want slaves and people to have power over. So there's a problem for them. That if you just create bots and it's like a video game, then
who maintains the bots?
Yeah.
I mean, you still have to maintain all that shit. You can have any civilization you want if you can maintain it. And I would argue that, like, that's not how physics works. At a certain point, you're going to have to maintain it.
Yeah.
Things break down. You do have entropy. Entropy is a thing, and you're not going to get around it.
Yeah.
You can get around entropy in the digital sense, like in a virtual world, as long as you have some kind of power source to power your digital world.
Yeah.
But still you have to have a power source. All right. I mean, so one of the great lines in the Matrix is that there's one iron rule to electricity. It's in the name. I mean, it's one rule, electricity. If you don't have electricity, then all this shit goes away.
Yeah.
That's why I used to love that question when they're like, well, but if all of the EMP or all the power goes out all over the world, then your Bitcoin's worthless. And it's like, if all the power goes out in the world, I promise you have much bigger problems than money at that point.
Yeah.
Like you have many orders of magnitude bigger problems than that. The first of which will be the 25% of the world's population that will be dead within about 90 days. just because of medications that can't be manufactured.
Yeah.
I mean, so the smell of corpses everywhere, because 25% is a big fucking number.
Yeah.
Like, you have some big problems if you lose electricity. That's a big problem. So yeah, money isn't going to be on your radar at that point. Not gold, nothing will be on your radar at that point. So you better hope that never happens, because that is a civilization-ending event. That
Yeah.
And it won't be like, but it'll be like Mad Max. No, that's a fantasy. That's a straight fucking fantasy. That's not. No, what it will be closer to like is the movie Threads. It'll be a lot closer to that.
I don't know.
That's fucking horrible. Oh my God, go watch it. You're gonna be in a mood for that one, though.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. That's a fucked up movie.
Really.
There's two movies. There's a movie called The Road with Viggo Mortensen.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a Cormac McCarthy book.
Mm.
And then there's another movie called Threads. Watch both those movies back to back if you're brave enough. It's a double feature, and like that's a bit more accurate of what people would be dealing. Yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like it's not this fantasy of people with mohawks and shit. Like no. That's a complete fantasy of everything. No, it's things that are really, really messed up. It's people trying to figure out where they're going to get fresh fucking water.
Yeah.
Can you even get water?
Yeah.
How long will you survive without it? What, 10 days maybe? If assuming you have enough fat cells on your body, maybe 8-10 days.
Mm.
I mean, so it's like, yeah, you got some problems there. But yeah, it's a bit more accurate that way. So yeah, whenever there's someone who's taking out the grid, like, dude, that's a planet-ending event.
Yeah,
that pretty well ends most of the planet.
Well, this is what they're threatening to do in Iran right now, to take out the water, the power. I mean, that will take them back to the Stone Age. That's the threat.
I think that they could try it. I think that this is my suspicion about Iran. I'm not an expert on Iran, but they are at altitude. They have mountains everywhere. They're the roof of the world. I mean, they're up there. They're not quite the Himalayas, but they're definitely big.
Yep.
And there's a lot of them. And this is the thing. Iran is one of those countries that for decades, even when I was a little kid, there was this constant thing about Iran. We've got to do something about Iran, this threat from Iran, even though I've never seen an actual threat from Iran. I don't think that Iran owns a nuclear sub.
No.
Not even one. They certainly don't own an aircraft carrier. I don't think that they really have a whole hell of a lot of like hyper warfare technology. But I do think they have a lot of mountains. And I think there's probably a lot more, if they're smart, a lot of the electricity and a lot of the ability to do all this stuff is probably pretty well hidden. Backups. Again, I put myself in the position.
Yeah.
If I were running it, what would I be doing? And I had these crazy people from all over the world that, for whatever reason, hate me because of whatever. I'm not even saying I agree with these people. I'm really not. I'm just saying, like, if I am putting myself in that position, I would have backup systems for backup systems for backup systems.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have several layers of redundancy for all of these things, like water, electricity, food. I would have as much backup as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Because you've had all this time to prepare for it. You've had, whatever. I mean, 70 years to prepare for this stupid shit.
Yeah.
Ever since the CIA installed the Shah. So it's like you've had all this time to do all of this. So who the hell knows what they actually have? And I don't think that it's going to be this cakewalk that they make it out to be, where it's going to be, there's not going to be any casualties. Bullshit. There's going to be probably a lot of U.S. casualties.
Yeah. Probably
a lot. And Americans have to square with that. Like, well, I mean, I'm not sure that you really succeeded in protecting freedom, at least not for Americans. Again, Americans have have an open fucking border with a bunch of people just pouring in still. I know they keep saying it's closed, but clearly it's not, because they haven't got rid of the visa programs.
Yeah.
So that's the new open border, is that, oh, you're coming in legally. Yeah, that doesn't really solve the problem, dude. I mean, the birth rate, the numbers are 600 to 950 anchor babies are dropped every single day in the U.S. Every single day.
Really?
It's 600 to 950 every single day. It's crazy, and it's nonstop. It's every day, 365 nonstop. That's how many anchor babies are getting dropped every single day, and that's been like that for years.
That's wild.
So, yeah, I mean, that's how bad it's getting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, eventually, like, I realize that there are some people that share the same American values. Great, that's fine. You're not our problem. It's the people who don't have any interest at all in ever assimilating and becoming Americans. And many of them get interviewed. I was just watching some dude he was interviewing a whole bunch of people from India, and they all say the same thing. They're like, yeah, I'm just here for the money. I'm just going to leave. Like, okay, so yeah, you're not even really here to become an American. You're just here to make as much money as you can and then fuck off back to your country.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, how are we benefited by this? We're not really benefited at all. So
it's like you said earlier, that presented with that opportunity, most people would take it.
They would. I would look somebody square in the face and tell them you're a fool to not take it.
Yeah.
In under those circumstances. But that's exactly the problem, is that really shouldn't be something that this is keeping honest people honest. You shouldn't be doing this. This is a bad idea to do stuff like this, or to allow it.
Yeah.
Because in the case of the States, this is all being allowed and encouraged.
Yeah.
You know, as it is in many parts of the West. Japan's fighting with this right now. You know, I saw that too. There's a bunch of people in Japan saying, dude, yeah, this isn't going to work for us.
Yeah.
This is not a compatible culture. Like, none of this is compatible.
Yeah. Well, that when I saw the video of the Antifa in Japan, I just immediately went, no, they're being paid. I tweeted that out the other day. I tweeted it the other day. The fastest way to exorcise someone from their liberal mindset is defund them.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. Oh, this is all. That's the thing, is this is where all this money printing thing. Like, no one could ever do any of this stuff if you weren't able to print money. None of this stuff could even exist.
Yeah.
You could do it for a little while until you ran out of money.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when you run out of money, you reflux right back down into the bottom of the flask, and that's it. That's what should be happening. That would be a normal, healthy way of going about things. What we're seeing right now with all of this, you're just torturing everybody. Everybody's just being. That's why I argue with the minimum wage people all the time. They're like, well, we need minimum wage. Like, no, you want to do that because you're printing money. There's no. This isn't a philosophical argument. I understand the philosophy behind what you're saying. I'm dealing with the practical reality, though.
Yeah.
Practical reality says that if you're gonna just print a bunch of money out of nothing, then there's got to be a way out of this, because we know how this ends. If it doesn't end soon, you're just torturing everybody else in the meantime with inflation, and that's all that's happening. And on top of that, they're not having kids, so now you're running the risk of losing your civilization because you don't have any birth rate. This is a huge problem, particularly. I mean, like, I looked it up, like, particularly for your white Americans. White Americans are not replacing themselves at all. I think I looked it up one time. It's for births per white female. It's 0.98. Really? They're not even replacing themselves now.
Jesus.
So 2.1 is replacement, or 2.11 is replacement for a couple, to factor in mortality. 0.98 means you're not even replacing that one person anymore.
Yeah.
You're under even the threshold of replacing one. That's how bad it's getting. It's like, yeah, and that's not going to go away anytime soon, especially if you continue this shit.
Yeah. I know people bring up Universe 25 and the Mouse Utopia thing a lot, but I've always been fascinated that the way the population just simply collapsed in a way that doesn't seem possible. It's like, why? How can that possibly happen? But it happened again and again and again.
Yeah.
And
existential boredom. I think that's really what happens, is existential boredom. This is that problem with utopia itself. This is the problem. It's the casino where you always win. It's all of that. It's that you run afoul of existential boredom, and to my knowledge, there's no cure for that.
Yeah.
Other than problems. When I was a little kid,
the cure creates the problems.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I read this book in school. It's not a book; it was just a reading book in school, one of the generic ones that actually I remember reading it when I was a little kid, that one of the characters dealt with that very problem. He got to go to a paradise where everything was exactly what he wanted, and then realized that wasn't really what he wanted. He didn't want a paradise where he got everything he wanted. He wanted to be able. He needed to have some problems, some things to solve, things like that. The difference is, again, what kind of problems are you doing that? Are you trying to solve? Are you PvE or PvP? To use a gamer analogy. And right now, I mean, we apparently have the PvE thing kind of licked, or at least on pause for the time being. Well, now we're about to go into PvP because now there's just too much conflict.
Yeah.
And if we can't solve this issue, I'm like, well, then it's going to solve itself. So, somehow, some way, it's going to solve itself. I mean, eventually, it's going to work itself out. Cells are supposed to divide naturally, and if you force it to not divide, well, you got a problem. And that's kind of where we're at.
I keep coming back to that the Ari clip that you post. What it's going to take, and I just keep thinking, no, he's right. Like, when has anything changed? We're not going to vote our way out of this. When has look through history?
Yeah, not the conventional way. I mean, people will vote for something. They'll always vote for some kind of a leader, even if it's a leader to tell everybody to arm themselves to go fight.
Yeah,
they're going to do something to that effect. But yeah, in the conventional sense at this point, no, I don't see it happening. I think too many people are. There is this very comfortable life that everybody has gotten themselves very used to, particularly boomers, particularly these fake rich people. They've gotten very comfortable with this, and it's like there's going to have to be some discomfort that's going to have to happen. Unfortunately, these things typically go too far. That's the only sad part about this, is that once this genie gets out of the bottle, it's not going to stop. These things are going to. I mean, as with a lot of these things, it's probably go way too far.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably will. It'll go too far the other goddamn way, which is another problem that I have with it. It's why I have a hard time with a lot of the, one of the challenges I have with like a lot of the National Socialist guys. Hey, I get the idea.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you guys you're going to go too far with it.
Yeah.
I already know what you're going to do. You're going to go way too fucking far. And there has to be a balance there. You have to leave people alone. In the States, we have something like 80 million laws. Everything's fucking illegal. Everything. It doesn't make any difference. There's a law for everything. That shit can't continue. You just have to have a few laws. Like a handful, dude. You cannot have all this. And the unfortunate reality is that the pendulum trying to swing the other way really hard turns into, now we're going to make everything illegal except having like normal families. Like that's not going to work either. That isn't going to work either, because people don't operate like that. They have to have enough freedom to make mistakes. They have to have freedom to move a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the issue. I think that everybody's going to run into this. China has their own system with it. I mean, like that's how they They're able to get away with it with the whole idea of bureaucracy. But at the same time, look at what happens with people who don't want that. They're homeless.
Yeah.
They sleep on the streets. They have no social credit score. That's what happens to them. And, or they just get rid of them, like they did back in the day.
Yeah.
This is always going to be a problem. And it's because nobody wants to split and go their separate ways. This is where borders come from.
Yeah.
Whole idea behind borders is the compromise to war. Is, hey, listen, we have irreconcilable differences, so we're going to go on this side of the river, you stay on that side of the river.
Yeah.
We'll leave you alone, and then you leave us alone. That's the deal.
Yeah.
And that's the compromise to war. But if you're going to make it impossible for people to separate, well, you're going to have wars, I guess, now. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. I absolutely agree with that. I see a lot of the talk. I hear a lot of the talk. A lot of the Twitter spaces and whatnot, and they're talking about this stuff. And it's also just simply not practical. There's a lot of people talking about, well, we're going to create this white ethno-state. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, how?
Where?
How? Yeah, how and where?
How does that work?
Yeah.
And how do we going to define white?
Yeah.
Because, like back in the day, so you had your British and your Irish constantly at each other's throats. You had the Italians and the Irish constantly fucking at their throats in the States. There's whole movies about that shit. Yeah. And it's like, and of course now nobody can tell them apart. So yeah, how do you do it? Like, what's the practical? There isn't really a practical solution to it.
Yeah.
No, you'd have to let people just volunteer. You'd have to have, in my view, if you wanted to do something like that, you'd have to have people free enough that they could just go separate themselves into whatever category they want. There you go. So if in other words, if a black neighborhood or black area decides they only want, like, okay, well then they can go do that. And there's really nothing. The same thing for white or whatever. If they want to separate by color, me personally, I look at what's in here. Do you have a brain in your head?
Yeah.
Because for me, that circumvents a lot of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, but if that's the case, it's like, yeah, you could certainly probably try it, but I don't know that you could. I don't know that the logistics would work.
Yeah.
Maybe they could, but I don't know you could pull it off. And again, if you go too far and you have too many laws, then people are going to leave. Because, just something as simple as the nitrous discussion we were just having. Just something that simple. Like, well, but we don't want people having drug habits. Okay, well, that's not going to happen in anywhere on this planet. People are always going to do something. That is just how it is. Not everybody is going to be a junkie, though. Yeah. Not everybody's going to do that. Most people don't. That's why you don't have a majority of people that are junkies now. Yeah. It's just kind of how this kind of thing works. So, it's like I asked the question. It's like, dude, if heroin's legal tomorrow morning, how many people are going to go on the spike? Yeah. Like, I got news for you. The people they're already on it. Yeah. So, if you're not doing it now, then you're probably not going to do it tomorrow. So, what exactly is the problem? Yeah. But that is something that needs to be considered. So, yeah. Well, one of my personal platforms in my vote for me or get fucked campaign which I still think is the greatest political slogan of all time. I think so. Yeah. That works. Yeah. It's memorable. Yeah. Well, I'm promising to put acid in the water. They've been threatening us with it for so long. Someone's got to do it. We're going to make this stuff happen. LSD in the water. That'd be awesome. That would be a fascinating. I just read some story about that where some woman like OD'd on LSD, really thinking it was something else. And for like 2 weeks was just really super messed up. But then after that, like a whole bunch of chronic pain or something went away. Really? And it like apparently fixed a bunch of weird shit that she was dealing with, and she got off antidepressants and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, and it was an accident, right? She didn't mean to do that. Yeah. But that is a strange thing. I've heard this. you know,
Yeah.
that the psychedelic, it did something. You
Mm.
know, a long time ago, I remember there was the psychedelics with like the mushrooms, for example. You were talking about psilocybin, where it's like the people who have addiction, they do psilocybin, and then they realize what happens is they go into their own little world for a while, the spirit world, so to speak,
Mm.
and they deal with the problem, the real problem of why they do other stuff.
Yeah.
Then they come out of it and they go, okay, then now they're not interested because they dealt with that problem,
Yeah.
or they understood it. They understood what they were trying to do. Like the somebody who's doing a bunch of drugs, for example, um, the drugs are the attempt to cure a problem that person has, and they're doing that to try. They're self-medicating.
Yeah.
Um, but if they dealt with that problem, and the problem doesn't exist any longer, then there's really kind of no reason to medicate away from it, is there?
Mm. I actually found
know,
that with mushrooms and acid.
Mhm.
I had addiction problems early on.
Mhm.
I dealt with more stuff just in a weekend of doing mushrooms or
Yeah.
acid. I dealt with more stuff and made more progress in getting away from the addiction and everything
Mhm.
than the years of therapy or anything like that would ever help me with.
That's what I've heard that
Mm.
from quite a few people that have done something like that, where they 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 realize that they were dealing with something and they just kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
And they once they've dealt with it or confronted it, then, well, yeah, now you can close that chapter.
Yeah.
And now you can move on. Now you can go to do something else. You're not stuck
Yeah.
in this. You've that's now in the past. So time gets split into two parts, before this and after this.
Mm.
And now that time is over.
Yep.
Now you can go into the new time. And
Yeah.
so I could see that.
Well, it was like, for me, it was like I had this monster, and it for a long time it didn't bother me too much, but it was always there, and it would come up, and it would be a problem. And then I started taking drugs, and I would take the drugs would kind of push the monster away from me. And then when the drugs would wear off, the monster would come back and be right there. Doing the psilocybin, the mushrooms and whatnot, just made me comfortable with the monster being there.
Yeah, I could
That's
see that.
Yeah, that's how I would put it. It just made me realize the monster wasn't really a monster.
Yeah, I could certainly see that.
Mm.
I could certainly see that, how that would be the case.
Mm.
So I have to wonder about that for other people, because like there have been a bunch of people talking about the benefits of psilocybin. So
Mm.
I
Well,
I, I could see it. I could see that being something that would be kind of effective, especially if someone is really trying to understand why it is that they're bummed or depressed or whatever it is that they're dealing with.
yeah,
Or anger, could be anger.
yeah,
Could be being a horrible, angry person like me. You know, because I try to be nice again. Like, I try to be nicer. It doesn't always work.
yeah,
Um, and it's something I work on. And I'm not really angry. It's just more that I have a level of cynicism that is just toxic.
yeah,
And it's true.
yeah.
It's true. I know that about myself.
Mm.
Um, that yeah, I mean, when you get to a certain level of cynicism, that yeah, it just becomes it goes beyond edgy, and it's why I can't do comedy, for example, right? I mean, we talked about this a long time ago,
Yep.
but it's why I can't do comedy. It's I can point out funny stuff. I have a super dry sense of humor. I always have.
Mm-hmm.
But if I try to do comedy, it just comes out as angry. It just comes out as as being almost demeaning.
Yeah.
Even though it's like, and it's just kind of that way. I can pull off doing funny stuff if it's out just in the world randomly, then
Yep.
I can do it. But if I try to focus on it, it just comes across as me pointing out stupidity with anger.
Yeah.
And Carlin was able to pull that off because he was able to do the facial expressions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all that stuff that he would do, and so he could pull it off. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it just comes out as just like anger and hostility.
Yeah.
And that's no fun. So
it's a lot of open micers and whatnot go through that, where you're trying to be funny, you're trying to relate to people, and the frustration eventually comes out, and you end up having one of these nights where you're just yelling at people and everyone hates you.
That's what I mean. It's like I could see it.
Yeah.
You know, I could see that. And so it's like, yes, I mean, that's why I can point out funny stuff, and I can tweet funny stuff here and there. And I can say a few things, you know, I can do that kind of stuff, but it's like, but to try and focus on it, it would just be me pointing out anger, stupidity, cynicism. That's all it would be.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't translate into the funny part, where someone gets a chance to laugh at like the absurdity of it all.
Yep.
You know, I don't possess that kind of talent.
Yeah.
You know, Mel Brooks could do stuff like that, point out all of this weird stuff in his movies and make fun of it, even though it was like a lot of it was really, that if it happened in real life, it'd be fucking horrible. That would be terrible.
Yeah.
But you can kind of make it funny by making it a character. So
yeah. All right. Well, look, let's wrap it up there. I might also end with a joke as well, but thank you so much for joining us again, Axel. This has been really great, really fun. Thank you everyone for watching who did watch, and you can catch this anytime on the restream. But so, yeah, all right. We'll go out with a joke and then I'll hit the intro. Okay, so how do you get a dog to stop humping your leg?
I don't know.
Suck its cock.
Yeah, but I know what'll make you feel better.
Oh, no, not another box of dogs.
It's another box of dogs!